Crash Law 24 sponsors GBNews Traffic and Travel Report.
Good morning. This is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. Drivers heading southbound on the M42 can expect some delays due to a broken down vehicle. On the M1 northbound near Leeds, there's been a road traffic collision. Cheerfully, one lane is closed, causing delays of around 20 minutes. In Leicestershire, a similar incident northbound between junction 14 and the M1 is causing a 40-minute delay with one lane closed. Be cautious if you're travelling on the M42 southbound at junction 4 as a broken down vehicle is impacting traffic. And on the trains, northern buses are replacing trains from Corkicle to Whitehaven. Stay informed and drive safely. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GBNews Traffic and Travel Report.
Sunday with Michael Portillo from 11, only on GB News.
Oh, yes. It's pretty crass and crude in places, but it is basically making fun of Hitler. And it's a shady shyster producer who politely stups old ladies to get investment money. And he figures out, with the help of a young, twitchy accountant, that if they take a lot of money in, put on a show that's guaranteed to flop, they won't have to repay the money, and then they're going to do a runner to Brazil. And of course, they think that Springtime for Hitler is the ideal show, and the guy that plays Franz, who's the writer of it, has like a sort of tin pot hat and these pigeons that harmonise with swastikas on their back. For me, he kind of stole the show. I thought he was wonderful. But they basically put on this show, and of course it becomes a hit. And people think that it's a satire when they were trying to outrage and horrify people and get the show to close.
Because they learned that they could make more money with a flop than they could with a hit.
Yes, because they don't have to repay anybody.
Yeah.
So that was the idea behind all of that. It's wonderfully done. This was at the Menier Chocolate Factory before. I didn't love it quite as much there. I just thought it was a little bit cramped. And this is a show that it's broad. It needs big moments, big swings. I liked it. It's on at the Garrick. It's all the way through till January. I just grinned all the way through. It's brilliantly done. Everyone on stage. Andy Nyman in the lead as Max Bialystock is absolutely sensational, filling very big Nathan Lane and Zira Mostel boots. But I think the whole cast is great. I just think everyone is up there absolutely going for it. And you saw it, no?
My mouth was on the floor at some moments. I mean, it is bawdy, it is outrageous.
And the show stands up. It's still relevant. It's still, about possibly what's going on in the world everywhere as well, and fascism and dictatorships, but also about the proper use of satire.
GB News, the People's Channel.
I think for far too long in this country, millions of people felt as though they weren't represented at all by the establishment media.
GB News was needed because there literally was no other voice. Everyone was saying the same thing.
GB News exists because there is a desperate need for fearless journalism that puts the people first. GB News came on the scene as a disruptor, and it has always been a disruptor ever since.
The mainstream is all about keeping the status quo as it is, ticking along quite nicely. They don't want to ask difficult questions.
But journalism is journalism at the end of the day, and we're not here to serve any masters. Our masters are our audience.
Charlie Peters, he gave a voice to the victims of grooming gangs, and now, of course, is led to a national inquiry.
GB News exists to make sure those concerns are put forward and people feel as though what they want to ask is put to those in power.
We don't take orders from anyone. We ask the questions our viewers and listeners want answering.
I know what's actually being discussed by my family and my friends. Us ordinary, hard-working British people have had enough. We've had enough.
They're fed up with the same old establishment nonsense. Everything that we do is opening up conversations that others are afraid to go at. Why are you illegally bringing people into Britain?
That is our job. Our job is to get to the truth.
If it's important to you watching or listening at home, then it's important to us as well.
That's what makes us the fearless champion of Britain.
Good morning, it's 9:30 on Monday the 29th of September. Live across the United Kingdom, this is Britain's Newsroom with Cameron Walker and Miriam Cates.
Well, contribute or leave Britain. That's the message from the Home Secretary as Labour launches an immigration crackdown overhauling the main route to British citizenship. But will it work?
Well, the Shadow Home Secretary Chris Philp told GB News he wasn't convinced.
Labour are announcing today is something which we Conservatives proposed in Parliament a few months ago, and Labour voted against it.
But James Murray, the Chief Secretary to the Treasury, defended the Home Secretary's commitment to ending the Channel crisis.
People are trying to take the mick out of our values or out of our generosity or out of the laws of our country. She takes it head on and says, no, we're going to tackle this, we're going to go at it, we're going to fight.
Well, we'll be live from the Labour Party conference in Liverpool, where our very own Andrew Pearce will be interrogating politicians.
Good morning. Well, what a difference a year makes. A year ago here, it was just 2 months after Labour's landslide election victory. There'd been a few bumps on the way with a big row over freebies, but there was a sense of optimism in this conference hall. It's evaporated this week. I can tell you the atmosphere is dominated by the threat to Labour from reform. Andy Burnham's not very subtle attempts to say he might run for the leadership. And the ghost of Nigel Farage is stalking this conference hall because it's what people are talking about. The Chancellor will make her keynote speech today. We'll get the Home Secretary making her keynote speech today too on immigration, and there'll be a conflict between the two, in my view.
Well, despite the government's plans to get tough on immigration, 125 migrants crossed the Channel on a mega dinghy this weekend, marking a record number on a single boat.
Sir Keir Starmer brands Nigel Farage's plans to abolish indefinite leave to remain as racist and immoral. But we'll be joined by Reform UK's Zia Youssef any moment now for his reaction.
And we'll be meeting the man who fought back against locals who ripped down his England flag by painting his entire house as a Union Jack. Well, welcome to Britain's Newsroom, and we're going to get stuck in straight away because joining us now is the leader of Reform UK's Doge programme, Zia Youssef. Zia, thank you so much for joining us this morning. You must be delighted by the start of this Labour conference. It is being completely driven by Reform's policy agenda.
Well, the reason why it's being driven by our agenda is because Reform, because Nigel Farage actually listen and have the finger on the pulse of the British people and the British electorate and are coming up with practical solutions for the issues and problems that affect their lives on a day-to-day basis. And in contrast, you have a Prime Minister who has just kept up the tradition of smearing and belittling anyone who says, you know what, mass untrammeled immigration to the tune of millions and millions of people that came here against the wishes of the British people are racist. And the fact that this continues is actually almost beyond belief, but actually is very believable when you place it into context, because there was a Survation poll done by Sky, which showed that the majority of Labour members, the majority of the people at that Labour conference of which you speak, want Keir Starmer to resign. Those are the people Keir Starmer is talking to when he refers to anyone who raises legitimate concerns about immigration as being racist.
Zia, I pull you up on what Reform UK's policy is when it comes to scrapping indefinite leave to remain for non-EU citizens. What is Reform's policy on people coming from Hong Kong, let's say, or Ukraine, who have been given specific rights to come to the United Kingdom under specific refugee status schemes?
Yeah, sure. So let's address those in turn. For people who came here from Hong Kong on what's known as a BNO, O being overseas territory visa, those people, a significant percentage of them would qualify for that renewal of the work visa that we're talking about. We're talking about introducing a 5-year renewable visa. For those that don't, there will be a humanitarian route available to them. And I want to be clear as well, there will be a path, there will continue to be a path, of course, for people to become naturalized British citizens. In terms of the Ukrainians, there isn't a path. Those visas do not have a path to ILR, actually at the request of the Ukrainian government, no less. So those people are not in any way subject to the policy we're talking about. But let's be clear about this. Last year alone, people watching this program had to pay £9 billion last year alone in the form of taxes to pay for universal credit welfare payments for people who are foreign nationals, and that number is going to balloon over the coming 5 to 10 years as a result of this Boris wave. The 3.8 million people who came to this country, despite Boris telling everyone he was going to reduce immigration, he instead turned on the afterburners, and there is an enormous cost to that. The cost of that is hundreds of billions of pounds. It is unconscionable, absolutely unacceptable to expect the people watching this program to have to shell out to pay for those people to live off the state for the rest of their lives, which is what happens when you grant them indefinite leave to remain. So our policy is simple. We expect, and Nigel Farage, if he's Prime Minister, he will expect migrants to pay their way, speak English, and not commit crime. The fact that Keir Starmer thinks such a policy is racist says far more about him than it does about the British people.
Now, you make the point that a huge proportion, more than half of the migrants who've come over here under the so-called Boris waves are not net contributors. They're earning less than the median salary. But the fact is that many of those people are working in essential jobs. For the NHS, for example, they're maybe earning low salaries and therefore getting their salaries topped up by universal credit and other benefits. But nevertheless, they are performing essential roles. Some people are concerned that if they were all forced to leave in a very short space of time, it would cripple the NHS and social services. What's your response to that?
My response to that is, in our policy announcement, we explicitly introduced the concept of an acute skills shortage visa. These are visas that would be issued to people who are fulfilling functions that have a national critical role, and the people you're talking about would fulfill that. But here's what Reform are going to do differently, that for some insane reason has not happened for decades in this country. For every single one of those visas that are issued to fulfill an acute skills shortage, a commensurate accelerated training place must be created for a British person to ultimately fulfill that role. And in doing so, what happens is that short-term foreign labour that is needed to be brought in to fill those roles ultimately breeds long-term capacity. We've had the opposite in this country. We have 6.5 million people. Miriam, you know this better than anyone because you're across these numbers. You've done a lot of work in the welfare space. 6.5 million British people currently claiming out-of-work benefits, only a third of whom are even actively seeking work. One of the reasons why this is the case is because business has the ability to turn on the taps to unlimited, dirt cheap foreign labour. And we have a message for business. We are pro-business, we want business to thrive, but we are putting them on notice. If the British people see fit to deliver a Reform majority at the next general election and Nigel's the Prime Minister, the era of unlimited, dirt-cheap foreign labour to undercut British workers is over.
Wazir, speaking of business confidence, Rachel Reeves, the Chancellor, is expected to use her speech at Labour Party conference to claim that Nigel Farage, if he was Prime Minister, would go on a borrowing spree, disrupt the labour markets and rip up an EU-UK trade deal, unfunded spending commitments. How much business confidence do you think there will be in a Reform UK government, considering what the Chancellor is expected to say?
Rachel Reeves talking. I'm sorry, I'm genuinely finding it difficult not to just laugh because Rachel Reeves has been spending money like a drunken sailor. Look at the cost of borrowing. Look at 30-year British gilts. They've reached multi-decade highs, much higher than they were even during Truss's prime ministership. We have a Chancellor who spends money like a drunken sailor, whacks it on a credit card. And here's the crazy thing. Here's the the crazy thing. British people's lives are getting demonstrably worse as a result of that spending. What Reform are about is saying, listen, we're going to get government spending under control. We're going to cut out the enormous amounts of waste, the crazy numbers of billions of pounds, for example, spent in quangos, the tens of billions of pounds spent on net zero at the behest of this insane net zero religion that so many in Westminster seem to be in hock to. We're going to reduce that spending. Nigel will deliver well north of £100 billion of cuts ahead of the next general election. We will lay those out for the British people and financial markets to see, and in turn we will then reduce the tax burn commensurately, I want to stress this, commensurately and in an orderly fashion, commensurately with those cuts, to start to allow British people to breathe again and to allow people to keep more of their money and to stop this insanely profligate government from wasting it.
One of the main reasons for that growing deficit is, of course, the state pension and also unfunded public sector pensions. It's also causing quite a lot of generational strife between younger people who think they'll never, ever get a state pension or a funded pension. The other two main parties have committed to keep the triple lock. What's Reform's policy on that?
Nigel's already said that what we're currently doing is we're looking at it. Nigel's reserved his position on it. I will say this too, Miriam. Reform is the only party of the parties with a realistic shot of government next time around who actually has pretty even support cross-generationally. The Tories basically have no support below 40 years old, and the Labour Party have virtually no support above 40 years old. Reform are polling at 23% even amongst 16 and 17-year-olds, and that goes all the way up to awesome pensioners who have done so much for this country and pretty commensurate throughout. So one of the major social contracts that needs to be repaired in this country, Miriam, is the social contract between the younger generations and the older generations. Reform are the only party with a realistic shot of doing that. And this is one of the key reasons why we've announced this immigration policy. Our young people, over a third of our young adults, are still living at home with their parents. This is a catastrophic failure to launch because young people can't even afford to rent a home anymore. Forget about buying a home. That used to be something to aspire to. Now simply moving out of your parents' home into rented accommodation is beyond the realms of achievement for so many British young people. This is a catastrophe, and simply shipping in, opening up our borders, allowing dirt cheap foreign labour to come in and undercut those young people is simply unfair, and Reform will not tolerate it.
OK, Leader of Reform UK, Doge Zia Youssef, thank you for joining us.
Well, joining us now from the Labour Party conference in Liverpool is GB News presenter Andrew Pearce. Andrew, lovely to see you. You've made it out of Paddington. What's the mood like at the Labour conference there in Liverpool?
I've got to say, it's bleak because they are shell-shocked at the unbelievable collapse in support for the Labour Party. There's never been such a fast, rapid decline in support in the polls for a governing party, particularly, Miriam, one that won with a landslide just 14 months ago. A poll yesterday showing Keir Starmer the most unpopular Prime Minister since records began back in 1977. I think his approval rating is minus 67%. That's even more unpopular than Liz Truss was at the height of her problems, and she only lasted 49 days. So Labour activists are baffled, they're confused, they think that the Labour leader is pushing too close to Nigel Farage, and then we get him saying yesterday that some of Reform's policies are racist. We're going to get the Home Secretary today announcing tougher rules on migration. There are so many conflicting signals here, because I think the truth is they just don't know how to deal with the Reform surge, and it is Reform that is dominating every single meeting you go to, every fringe meeting. They're talking about the threat from Nigel Farage. Nobody, it has to be said, are talking about the leader of the opposition, Kemi Badenoch, and the Conservative Party. It's all about Reform and how Labour deal with it.
Andrew, have you spotted Andy Burnham anywhere at the fringe events today? I suppose he's probably getting a bit of attention as well.
Well, he has, and there's no doubt many people here, including, I'm told, Andy Burnham, think he's probably peaked too soon. It was one thing to give an interview to the New Statesman saying, I'm thinking of running, but then he gave an interview to the Daily Telegraph, and he spoke at a Fringe meeting yesterday and conspicuously kept the cameras out. So he's obviously trying to be a bit coy after the event. But of course, in this modern world now, everybody has a camera. It's called their telephone. So he was filmed saying he's not backing down. But I do think there's a sense that the king across the water, as they call him here, has probably played his cards a bit too early. But the fact remains, if you look at the polls, he is way ahead of Keir Starmer, who most Labour Party members and supporters would think would make a better Prime Minister.
That is an extraordinary poll, the fact that more than 50% of Labour members actively want to get rid of Keir Starmer, not just disapprove of him, not just dislike him, but actually think that MPs should act to oust him. Andy Burnham is not currently an MP. If there were to be a leadership election now, he couldn't stand. Are there any other names being talked about as potential successors?
People are still talking about Angela Rayner. Can you believe it? Angela Rayner, who's not here, the deputy leader that was, the one who resigned just a few weeks ago, when her name was mentioned on one of the stages yesterday by, I think it was Steve Reed, the new housing secretary, there was a large and sustained roar and cheer from the conference floor, the biggest cheer of the conference so far. I mean, it's inconceivable that she could come back as leader right now, but maybe 2 or 3 years' time. But what people are saying, Miriam, is come May, there's going to be some bruising local elections when Reform almost certainly will win Wales. They'll make gains in Scotland where they've not been strong before. There'll be a lot of big gains from the Conservatives in England, and that's when the pressure will be both on the Prime Minister and on Kemi Badenoch. But the truth is, it's very, very complicated and difficult to unseat a Labour leader, let alone a Labour Prime Minister. I mean, just think how long they stuck with that loser, Jeremy Corbyn. 5 years. This guy won an election only 14 months ago, the biggest majority since 2001. So he's not going anywhere just yet.
Gosh, well, Andrew, we'll be joining you throughout the programme from Liverpool, but for now, thank you very much.
Considerably easier to oust a Tory leader, isn't it, Cameron? Maybe
yes.
They should be learning from the Conservative Party.
Well, I remember Labour politicians criticising the Tory government last time for switching their leader so often, and now they're considering doing the same thing, honestly.
Well, we will be crossing back to Andrew throughout the programme today at the Labour conference, but coming up next...
As Keir Starmer brands Nigel Farage's policies as racist and immoral, we'll be asking a pollster why Reform UK are way ahead in the polls. But first, if you're in search of some holiday sun, here's the forecast for some of the top European destinations.
Can't wait to get in that sea.
Lovely and warm.
Just like the feeling of having great travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
There's still plenty of fine and warm weather across most of the Mediterranean, but it's a different story across parts of Spain, and in particular parts of southeast Spain and the Balearic Islands, where we're going to see some particularly heavy and persistent rain through the day on Tuesday. Flooding is possible in places and warnings are in place as well. Scattered showers across parts of Italy, the Balkans and Greece, but many places staying dry with some sunny spells. And through the next few days, it stays largely fine with a mixture of sunny spells and cloud and temperatures around average.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Sunday with Michael Portillo from 11, only on GB News.
And with a dynastic touch, George Martin's son, Giles Martin, is involved in all of this.
Yes, so he's the keeper of his father's flame, really, which is very touching.
It's very, very touching. How can it be? I mean, we've been talking about a band here that was playing before we were able to send pictures across the Atlantic. How can a band that is that old cause such excitement today?
Well, it's such a number of elements. They encapsulated so much of the early 20th century music. They, Fats Domino, Chuck Berry, Little Richard, Tin Pan Alley through Paul McCartney's father. He grew up hearing his father playing the piano. He had a big jazz band. They played around Liverpool. So all of that music went into the Beatles' crucible. And I find it so interesting that you know, Decca get ribbed for turning them down. But those early sessions are not showing them at their best. And they say guitar bands are on their way out, but actually it took the Beatles to bring them back and show everybody a completely different scene, a completely different imagination of what guitar music can be. It took the Beatles 3 albums to really get into their stride, because their first 2, let's not forget, were sort of covers in a way. So there's a few of their own songs in there,
but a lot of covers. But
with Hard Day's Night, it's all their own tracks. And they, what can I say? The energy of them, the invention of them, when you watch Get Back, you see how much craftsmanship they put into constructing a completely unique song. That's the thing about the Beatles. Each song is so unique. There's no replication in any of their output.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m. only on GB News.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. It's 10 to 10. You're watching Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Now, the Prime Minister went on the attack recently, describing Reform's plans to abolish indefinite leave to remain as racist and immoral. But a bombshell poll by YouGov puts Reform UK on course to inflict Labour's worst defeat since, get this, 1931 at the next general election.
Well, it was actually a poll by More in Common, and joining us now is the More in Common UK pollster Luke Trill, who is live from the Labour Party conference. Luke, good morning. Thank you so much for joining us. I hope you can hear us OK. This is an extraordinary poll. This isn't just a small sample. How many people did you ask, and over what time period?
So we asked 19,500 people. So this is one of the biggest polls since the general election. We asked them towards the end of August and the start of September. And what that big poll allows us to do is it then allows us not just to say what percentages would the different parties get in an election, but also to look in more detail about what that would mean for individual seats. And the one thing I can tell you is when we produce the map of that, there is a lot of turquoise on there at the moment.
Gosh, so Luke, how many seats would Reform UK get? But also, what high-profile Labour politicians could potentially be in the running to lose their seats?
Yeah, so we projected that Reform would end up with a majority of 96. That's actually higher than the majority that Boris Johnson got in 2019. So it would be, you know, not just a narrow win, but a clear victory for Reform UK. You would see a number of members of the cabinet at risk. So people like the Climate Change Secretary, Ed Miliband, would be at risk of losing his seat. Rachel Reeves could be at risk of losing her seat to Reform, but also on the other side you would see cabinet members losing to potentially independent candidates. So we projected that Wes Streeting would be at risk of losing his seat in Ilford to an independent. So across the board you see Labour bleeding votes to Reform UK, but also to the left as well.
Now, of course, with first past the post, it is notoriously difficult to predict what's going to happen in each individual seat. But I think you point out that around 300 seats will be marginal at the next election. What does that mean for pollsters?
Well, it's going to make our job very hard. And you know, you're entirely right to say we are a long way from an election. Voters are particularly volatile at the moment, so this could all change very quickly. But the consequence of us having this very fragmented party system now, you know, that we don't just have Labour or Conservative, but we've got the Lib Dems doing particularly well, in fact not far off knocking Labour into third in that poll. You've also got the Greens, you've got the potential for Jeremy Corbyn's new party, and Reform, means that voters are splitting in all sorts of different directions. Seats are going to be won on quite small shares of the vote, and it's going to make life very hard for people like me, so that's something that we're going to have to work on in the run-up to the next election.
Luke, Troll, thank you very much for joining us. More in Common UK post. Thanks for joining us. I mean, incredible.
Fascinating stuff.
Fascinating
Great to be a neutral observer, wouldn't it? Well, don't go anywhere. We'll be back with lots more in the next hour. But first of all, here's your weather.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Good morning and welcome to your latest GB News weather update from the Met Office. Parts of North West Scotland will have a fairly breezy picture through the course of today with some rain at times, but for most of us, once any fog is cleared, it's going to be a fine day with plenty of sunshine. But do leave some extra time for your morning commute, perhaps first thing this morning in eastern parts of England, because the fog here could be particularly dense and a little bit slower to clear than elsewhere. Plenty of sunshine though for most of England and Wales and eastern Scotland. Some cloud developing as we go through the course of the day, but a fine picture for most nonetheless. Brightening up across parts of Northern Ireland as well after some morning patchy rain, and generally temperatures around average for the time of year, but feeling a little bit warmer than on Sunday, particularly in the south. But as we go into this evening, we might well see a little bit of late brightness developing across western parts of Scotland after a fairly wet much of the day, but the rain in the north and the east, even here, quite light and patchy, so not a particularly wet or soggy evening to come here. Some late evening brightness also perhaps across Northern Ireland, although the sky is fairly milky with that high-level cloud coming and going, and similar so across England and Wales, so a mixture of cloud and clear spells as we begin the evening. As we go through the course of tonight, it's going to stay largely dry across England and Wales, a mixture of cloud and lengthy clear spells. So once again, perhaps one or two isolated fog patches developing in the countryside and turning a little bit chilly, but not as cold as it was on Sunday night. Further north and west, though, that southerly breeze strengthening, so turning quite breezy here. And look at these lows, 11 to 13 degrees Celsius, so a very mild night to come for many parts of Scotland and Northern Ireland. It does mean, though, that Tuesday is going to be quite a cloudy and breezy picture up here. So outbreaks of rain often on, mostly across western Scotland and parts of Northern Ireland, but perhaps fairly soggy at times across parts of the higher ground areas of western Scotland and Dumfries and Galloway. Some rain for Cumbria as well, but many parts of England and Wales largely dry with sunny spells, and temperatures above average for most of us, 19 or 20 in the south and 17 in the north.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good morning, this is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. The M8 eastbound at Junction 3 is restricted due to a road traffic collision. Drivers are urged to proceed cautiously. Further south, between junctions 18 and 19 on the M5, an accident is causing congestion. In Leeds, on the M1 northbound at Junction 41, a collision involves multiple vehicles, resulting in a 10-minute delay. An incident on the A42 northbound near Leicestershire has closed one lane, causing delays. Around Walsall, a lane closure on the M6 southbound between junction 11 and 10 is due to a broken down vehicle. And on the trains, Northern buses replace trains between Corkickle and Whitehaven. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
It's our biggest Great British giveaway to date. You could be driving away with this brand new Benamar Primera motorhome. This 4-berth home from home comes complete with integrated kitchen and bathroom areas and has all of the tech you'd expect from the latest 2025 model. We'll also give you an incredible £30,000 in tax-free cash to make sure that any adventures you take in your new motorhome are taken in style. For a chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB16 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 31st of October. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
Because
the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Dubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Good morning, it's 10 o'clock on Monday the 29th of September. We are live across the United Kingdom. This is Britain's Newsroom with Cameron Walker and Miriam Cates.
Will contribute or leave Britain? That's the message from the Home Secretary as Labour launches an immigration crackdown, overhauling the main routes to British citizenship. But will it work?
Well, Shadow Home Secretary Chris Philp told GB News he wasn't convinced.
Labour are announcing today is something which we Conservatives proposed in Parliament a few months ago, and Labour voted against it.
But James Murray, the Chief Secretary to the Treasury, defended the Home Secretary's commitments to ending the Channel crisis.
People are trying to take the mick out of our values or out of our generosity or out of the laws of our country. She takes it head on and says, no, we're going to tackle this, we're going to go at it, we're going to fight.
Well, we'll be live from the Labour Party conference in Liverpool, where GB News political editor Chris Hope will be interrogating the politicians.
That's right. As well as concerns about migration, I'm here in Liverpool where there are real worries about job losses at the Lindsey oil refinery. I'll be talking to their workers next.
Well, despite the government's plans to get tough on immigration, 125 illegal migrants crossed the Channel on a mega dinghy this weekend, making a record number load on a single boat.
And Reform UK hits back at Keir Starmer as he branded Nigel Farage's plans to abolish indefinite leave to remain as racist and immoral. Earlier, we spoke to Reform's Zia Youssef.
Policy is simple. We expect, and Nigel Farage, if he's Prime Minister, he will expect migrants to pay their way, speak English, and not commit crime.
And we will be meeting the man who fought back against locals who ripped down his England flag by painting his entire house as a Union flag.
Cameron, I wonder how many flags there'll be at the Labour Party conference.
Oh, I'm not sure. We've got a few on the GB News stands, that's for sure.
Absolutely.
Let's see if there's any other flag wavers at the Labour conference. I'm not so sure. I suspect perhaps next week at the Tory conference there may be a few more. But of course, we saw lots at Reform just a few weeks ago. And is Reform UK, Miriam, just living rent-free in every Labour politician's head this week?
It seems to be, and the new policy that Shabana Mahmood, the Home Secretary, has come out with this morning about extending the qualifying time for indefinite leave to remain seems very similar to Reform's policy. They're clearly taking a lead from Reform, and why wouldn't they? Reform is soaring in the polls.
Yeah, and we saw that more in Common Poll, didn't we, projecting a Reform UK overall majority. So are they looking at the opinion polls thinking, oh, what's actually making voters vote for Reform UK? Let's try and copy it?
Yeah.
Well, I'm not so sure.
And yet Labour members, who are often very far to the left on this issue, will not be at all pleased that their cabinet ministers are pushing down this direction. So there could be more splits, there could be more arguments. We'll be covering it all live from the conference.
Yes, and we would love to know what you think. Send us your views and post your comments by visiting gbnews.com/your say. But first, here's the news with Sophia Hill.
Cameron, thank you. Very good morning. It's just gone 10 o'clock. These are your top stories. Migrants who want to settle in the UK will face tougher conditions under Labour's plans. In her conference speech later, Home Secretary Shabana Mahmood will say that applicants must speak fluent English, have a clean record and volunteer in their community before gaining indefinite leave to remain. Asylum seekers will also need to be working, paying national insurance and not on benefits. Labour says it's drawing a clear line between its policy and Reform UK's pledge to scrap settled status entirely. However, Shadow Home Secretary Chris Philp says that this good citizen test does not go far enough.
We should be increasing the salary thresholds, for example, before people can bring family members into the country. And we should also be getting rid of the Human Rights Act for immigration matters so we can deport everybody, not some people, but everybody who arrives here illegally by small boat, by dinghy over the channel. And we should deport every single foreign criminal as well. But those measures that we Conservatives have developed in detail, Labour has been voting against throughout this year.
Elsewhere, a youth guarantee to cut unemployment will be announced by the Chancellor at Labour's conference today. Long-term unemployment youths will be guaranteed paid work and could face being stripped of benefits if they refuse to take it up. She's expected to argue Britain should be built on contribution, with duty, hard work and fair reward at its heart. 2 months before the autumn budget, she's also expected to involve tough decisions on tax and spending. And 125 migrants have crossed the Channel in a mega dinghy, the biggest ever number of illegal arrivals on a single boat. Provisional GB News figures show that 350 people made it across on Sunday, taking the weekend total close to 1,300. One child died on Sunday after a migrant dinghy got into trouble near Boulogne. This comes less than a day after 3 other migrants lost their lives attempting the crossing. Meanwhile, Chief Secretary to the Treasury, James Murray, is confident that Labour are doing enough to handle illegal immigration.
Look, we are not going to let up until we have done everything we possibly can to get those numbers down. And look at what the Home Secretary Shabana Mahmood has been saying. You know, if people are trying to take the mick out of our values or out of our generosity or out of the laws of our country, she takes it head on and says, no, we're going to tackle this, we're going to go at it, we're going to fight for what is right. And that's exactly her approach. And that's exactly the approach of all of us across government. And look, we know there's no silver bullet to this problem. If there was a silver bullet, someone would have found it already. We know that this means you have to go at the problem from every possible angle.
And rail passengers in Yorkshire will soon be able to pay for tickets by having their phones tracked. From today, a Northern Rail trial between Harrogate and Leeds will see travellers check in via a phone app with GPS tracking when they leave the train. The Department for Transport says that passengers will be automatically charged the lowest fare of the day, part of a plan to simplify ticketing across the network. Those are the latest GB News headlines for now. More from me in just under half an hour, but now it's back to Cameron and Miriam.
Hello, welcome back. You're watching Britain's Newsroom. We're live across the United Kingdom on GB News with Cameron Walker and Miriam Cates.
Good morning. Well, let's see what you've been saying on gbnews.com / your say. Lots of you, of course, have been getting in touch. We've got Nigel Farage. We've got Brenda talking about Nigel Farage. She says she's got a question for Nigel Farage. Do you really think he will win the next election? I'm not so sure that people actually want to vote for him, as I think he is going too close down the route that Donald Trump in the United States is going, which I think is quite interesting.
That is a really interesting point, because I think we sometimes forget that Donald Trump is actually extremely unpopular in this country. Although I know on this channel we do give him a lot of time, because it's very interesting what he's doing. But he is unpopular, and I think people will be worried about that close relationship potentially between Farage and Trump. But it is a long time away to the next election. We've got plenty more time to speculate.
Indeed. So, in Labour's latest bid to crack down on immigration, the Home Secretary is set to declare migrants must contribute or leave at today's party's conference.
Well, this comes as Sir Keir Starmer branded Nigel Farage's plan to abolish indefinite leave to remain as racist and immoral.
Well, let's hear now from GB News' presenter, Andrew Pearce, from the conference in Liverpool. Good morning to you, Andrew. Hopefully you can hear us. Oh, we've not quite got Andrew yet, have we? So he's basically going to be wandering around the Labour conference, basically trying to find people to speak to. But of course, we've got lots of GB News presenters up there. Chris Hope. We've got our political editor as well, Chris Hope. But back to this Donald Trump point.
Yes.
Reform UK, of course, there's lots of policies that they've put out there. It's lots of stuff which people want to hear, which is exactly what Donald Trump did in the United States.
Yep.
The criticism some have of Reform UK is when it gets down to detail, does the policy add up? And that is the question which Reform UK, if they do want to form the next government, really need to answer clearly and concisely.
They do, but I also think that people are potentially so fed up of the big two parties that they'll just throw the dice anyway and think, well, anything's better than what we've had before, so maybe they won't be so bothered about the detail. But we'll see. Somebody who will know the answer to that is the GB News editor, Christopher Hope, who's apologising profusely, but hopefully ready to talk to us. Chris, bring us up to speed with what's happening at the Labour Party conference.
We're already here. Listen, later today we'll be hearing from the Chancellor Rachel Reeves about midday, question marks about what taxes they may have to increase, maybe even cut the benefits, but whisper that quietly here at the Labour conference. And then at 3:30, of course, that big speech you've been trailing all morning about the crackdown on migration, charity work to get indefinite leave to remain. But also, real life is impacting on the Labour Party conference. There are jobs at risk around the country, and right now they're at risk at the Lindsey oil refinery. And with me now is Dave Smith from Unite Union. Dave, what's going on?
So we literally have a matter of hours now. We're expecting tomorrow that they're going to announce mass redundancies at the refinery, possibly between 120 and 150 people given notice of redundancy.
That's 1 in 3 of the workforce?
1 in 3 in the workforce, yeah.
Big deal. Why does Lindsey matter to, I mean, hugely matters to people living there. There's obviously families relying on that wage. Really, really worrying time. The wider country, though, is Lindsey important nationally?
It's hugely important. We supply around 20 to 25% of the diesel that goes into this country. So we make up to 500,000 litres of UK-grade diesel per hour. We can fully fuel 120 Boeing A320s. We supply Heathrow Airport. So we don't have the fuel security in the UK, and as a country we import around 75% of the diesel that is demanded in this country. And we are going to close a second refinery under Labour's leadership. It just seems ridiculous. There's no good reason for it, and we're importing diesel from the likes of India and Turkey, and what people don't really understand is they get their crude oil from Russia.
Right, so of course we're trying to impose sanctions on Russia, but this could be a backdoor way in for Russian origin-sourced diesel into this country if we allow Lindsey to close.
Correct, and we're in a position where we need to be more resilient. All it needs is another Suez Canal problem, Russia-Ukraine war. And we are sitting ducks. We don't have the fuel security in the UK that the government keeps saying that we have. We've got the North Sea, and again, we refine products cleaner and greener than anywhere else in the world. Yeah. So the talk about net zero, I mean, I'm old enough to remember the days when there was no smoking areas in pubs when they were smoking. I'm not a smoker myself, but I'd sit in a no smoking area in a pub. But walking out of that pub, what would I smell of? I'd smell of cigarette smoke. So CO2 is the same. It doesn't just stay in the country where they refine, it goes around the world. We do it greener and cleaner. So why don't we do it here? We have the resources to do it. It saves our jobs and it doesn't boost to foreign countries.
Listen, well, Dave Smith, good luck with this. Thank you for raising it on GB News. And now I think we're going live to Yvette Cooper in the hall.
The brilliant Margaret Beckett. And you know, 15 years ago, when I was Labour's shadow Foreign Secretary, the last world leader I met in that role was President Abbas in East Jerusalem. And 15 years on, the first world leader I met as Foreign Secretary was President Abbas in London. And the tragedy? We talked about the same things. The need for peace, the need for two states, the need for reform, and yet not only has so little changed, so much has got worse. Because, Conference, for many decades, the UK has pledged support for a two-state solution in the Middle East, but only recognised one of those states until now. And 7 days ago, I stood in the Great Chamber of the United Nations in New York, beneath the UN symbol of peace, to confirm the historic decision of the United Kingdom to recognise the State of Palestine. Our manifesto promise, because statehood is the inalienable right of the Palestinian people, and recognition is the embodiment of our passionate belief that the only path to security and lasting peace for Israelis and Palestinians alike is two states living side by side. But let there be no doubt, there can and will be no role for Hamas terrorists in any future government of Palestine. But this is a moment the world must seize. A spur, not a substitute for action. Because this summer's historic recognition decisions by the UK, France, Canada, Australia, Portugal and more, joining 150 states across the world, has been part of a crucial international process where every state in the Arab League for the first time has now joined with the Palestinian Authority in the condemnation of Hamas for those barbaric attacks on October the 7th and the demand for them to relinquish all power in Gaza, and where Britain has joined with partners from across the globe, from the US to the Arab world, from Europe to the global south, working on practical frameworks and plans, not just for ceasefire, but for a just and lasting peace with two states at the heart. And at the United Nations last week, I saw a growing determination from countries across the globe that this intolerable suffering must end for children facing starvation while Israeli forces block food at the border, for the hostages and their families in anguish. A Gaza without Hamas, a Gaza without hunger, a Gaza rebuilt for the Palestinian people. So now, with the demands of the world upon them, Hamas must end its abhorrent detention of hostages, the calculated cruelty that has split and traumatized families for nearly 2 years. And the Israeli government must end the moral obscenity of this campaign that has seen food, water and medicine denied and an unconscionable loss of human life, because Palestinian civilians should not have to go another day in fear and hunger. The hostages should not have to live another day in the darkness of captivity. No family should endure another loss. Enough is enough. The moment cannot be lost. The time for peace is now. Let me pay tribute to the tireless work of my predecessor to set out the pathway to recognition, restoring funds to UNRWA, support for the hostages, sanctions on Israeli ministers and on Hamas, restrictions on arms sales, but much more than that, the restoration of principles to our foreign policy and the restoration of Britain's voice on the world stage. Our Deputy Prime Minister, David Lammy. But you know, Conference, we spent 14 years in opposition, watching powerless as successive Tory governments trashed our reputation abroad, undermining investment and trade, shouting at friends and allies, and in 14 short months of Labour government, here's what we've worked to rebuild. 3 new trade deals with India, the US and the EU to boost jobs and investment here at home. A transformed relationship with Europe on security and defence. An ever stronger special relationship with the US. A new strategic approach on China. An unprecedented migration deal with France. Sanctions on Russian oligarchs. Action against Iran to prevent nuclear proliferation. Growth and development partnerships with the Global South. A new global clean power alliance to boost green energy and thanks to the tireless leadership of our Prime Minister Keir Starmer, the restoration of trust and credibility in Britain's role abroad so that we can deliver for the British people at home. And Britain's engagement on the international stage matters now more than ever. The world faces sustained instability unlike anything we've seen for generations. The pace of technological change, climate change, migration, not seen in our lifetimes. Global uncertainty, new kinds of state and hybrid threats. And yet the institutions and laws that were supposed to protect order and sustain peace are now buckling under the strain. The very principles that underpin them under assault. The rule of law, respect for sovereignty and borders, respect for our common humanity, and for our shared obligation to fight poverty and persecution. All those values so precious to us now being undermined, but values that it falls to us to defend. Not just Labour values, core British values. Because our flag stands for something, and we know that global challenges won't be solved if we wait till they land on our own doorstep. From climate change to economic security, we need action worldwide to tackle our problems here at home. Nowhere is that more true than on migration. Where dangerous smuggling and trafficking gangs operate across borders, then governments need to cooperate across borders to bring them down. And when we fail to work internationally on the causes of migration or border controls, more people make perilous journeys and confidence in the whole system is lost. And that is why we will work globally on new returns agreements and returns hubs so that rules can be enforced. We will work with international partners to tackle the causes and manage support for refugees. And we've doubled support for Sudan, where millions are fleeing violence and famine. And we will provide new help for Rohingya refugees in Bangladesh who have fled persecution in Myanmar. And ahead of the 75th anniversary of the Refugee Convention, we will lead the international debate on reforming and ensuring that the global framework can respond to the changing crisis today and conference. 30 years on from the horrific use of rape and sexual violence in the war in Kosovo, we must also ensure that there is much stronger protection for women and girls in Sudan, Myanmar and other conflicts today. So let me warn all those responsible for orchestrating sexual violence that a reckoning will come for them, no matter how long it takes, as we demand an end to the use of rape as a weapon of war. I am proud that this government, this Labour government, has pledged to tackle the national emergency of violence against women and girls, taken forward now by Jess Phillips and Shabana Mahmood, and I am determined that we now put that global emergency on violence against women and girls at the heart of our foreign policy too, because everyone has the right to live in freedom from fear. Conference, after the war in Kosovo and the Balkan crisis, we hoped we would not see war in Europe again. But 2 weeks ago, in the beautiful European city of Kyiv, I met up with 2 Ukrainian teenagers. They are brilliant ballroom dancers. They've won international prizes. And when Putin's troops first invaded their country, they escaped with their mums and came to live with us in Castleford. They practiced at the Airedale Methodist Hall. They even gave Ed a few post-Strictly tips. And last summer, they returned home. They train by day, but at night when the sirens go, like countless other families, they have to decide whether to sleep in the hallway or in the basement to hide from drones. This is a sovereign nation under unprovoked attack in Europe. Tens of thousands of Ukrainian children have been abducted, stolen from their parents. We've seen escalating attacks, including more than 600 drones and missiles targeting civilians this weekend alone. But Vladimir Putin should have learned by now, never underestimate the resilience of the Ukrainian people or the determination of their friends. Ukraine's security is our security. Ukraine's fight is our fight. As Ukraine stands firm against Russia, Britain stands firm with Ukraine. But you know, where President Zelensky and President Trump have called for talks on peace, Putin has sought only to escalate war. We've seen Russian drones over Poland and Romania, Russian fighter jets over Estonia, entering NATO airspace. Reckless, dangerous provocation. So that is why our party stands firm in NATO under the leadership of our Defence Secretary, John Healey, an alliance which is vigilant and resolute. And make no mistake, if we need to confront planes in NATO airspace without permission, then we will do so, because this party should be very proud that in Ukraine's greatest time of need, President Zelensky and the Ukrainian people have had no better friends than our country, our government, and our Prime Minister, Keir Starmer.
OK, that is the Foreign Secretary Yvette Cooper speaking at Labour Party's conference in Liverpool. An incredibly animated speech, Miriam, wouldn't you say?
Impassioned.
Yes.
Yes, and obviously covering her main areas of Palestine, Ukraine, other issues. But, yeah, an extremely emotional, really, performance, I would say.
Yes, saying Ukraine as a sovereign nation experiencing an unprovoked attack. She also called out the Russian jets and drones flying in NATO airspace as reckless, dangerous provocation, and saying we will not hesitate to engage if necessary.
And she received a very lively applause for her comments on the UK recognising Palestine. She did make sure to remind everybody that there should be no role for Hamas in any potential Palestinian government. Well, let's bring in our panel now for some reaction to that very lively first speech from the Labour conference. We've got the former Conservative advisor Charlie Rowley and socialist commentator Samuel
Sweek
here in the studio. Apologies. Samuel, this is a rousing speech for a committed Labour audience. The key points on recognising Palestine, very much something that they wanted to hear. Do you think they've made the right decision in this policy?
In recognising Palestine, absolutely I do. It's a long overdue move. The recognition and the sovereignty of a people should not be up for debate, or should not be the sole end product of any conflict or anything like that, or any geopolitical sort of goings on in the world, least of all in Palestine, who have faced segregation and degradation from Israeli siege for decades. It's long overdue, and it's a rare welcome move from this Labour government.
What do you make of the arrests outside Labour Party conference to the pro-Palestine action protests?
Well, it's a dangerous slide into an authoritarian state when a bunch of grannies, frankly, holding signs are charged under the Terrorism Act. That's not terrorism, that's the right to protest, and the government's clampdown on that has been deeply concerning, deeply worrying and deeply shameful.
Charlie, Yvette Cooper called for calm on both sides, demanding that the hostages are released by Hamas, but also that Israel ends their assault on Gaza City, of course, a huge humanitarian crisis there. I mean, it's hard for her not to say that, isn't it? But the fact of the matter remains, how much impact are Yvette Cooper's words here today actually going to make in that region?
Well, exactly, limited. But she has articulated very well, I think, that speech will go down very well, the idea of not a day longer should the hostages be kept under the cruel captivity of Hamas, and not a day longer should the people of Palestine be forced to endure fear and terror of bombs raining down on them. The criticism of recognising Palestine as a state at the minute, I think, is warranted because of the choreography. You cannot guarantee, as the Prime Minister has tried to do, to say that if a Palestinian state is able to be constructed and recognised that Hamas would not play a part. He can't guarantee that because Hamas wrestled territory, effectively, Gaza, from the Palestinian authorities. So you can't guarantee that Hamas won't play a part in a Palestinian state. And if, therefore, a state was set up, the threat to Israel, the corroboration between what would be a Palestinian state under Hamas with Iran, with the Hezbollahs, with the Houthi terrorist organisations that only want to attack the West and not in the Western interest, certainly not in our British interest, then that would be a bad day for us all.
So we had, over the weekend, the German Chancellor, Friedrich Merz, come out saying, well, Hamas could end this conflict in an hour. They released the hostages and gave up their weapons. And it seems extraordinary to me that that isn't what the Labour Party is calling for.
Totally. In a very, and I'm not quite sure why it's blurred, but it seems to be in terms of the debate. The war could end tomorrow. If Hamas released the hostages, it would be over. Now, of course, if Israel continued to assault, then of course the entire global community would be putting pressure on Israel. Of course, it would. It would condemn Israel entirely because there is no war to be had. Israel have asked for the release of those hostages. They should be released. Israel are the firepower in this fight, right? They have got the weapons, they've got the military, they've got the assault capabilities, as we are seeing, which is only impacting on innocent civilians, which needs to stop. We all recognise that. But the way in which this war could come to an end is if those hostages are released. I agree, funny enough, with the German Chancellor. Never thought I'd say that, but there you go.
This is a rare moment of agreement within the Labour movement. Perhaps some of the other speeches are going to be slightly less well received today.
I mean, I caveat that with the recognition of Palestine is the welcome part of it, but frankly means nothing when you continue to arm a state which is committing genocide in Gaza. That's just hollow words. It needs to be backed up with actions and further sanctions and, frankly, the end of arms sales to Israel. And just to go back on Charlie's point there, the return of hostages obviously is what everybody wants, and we do want to obviously see the end of the conflict. But this has been going on for generations now. Since the Nakba in 1948 has the Palestinian identity been erased and the subject to that, the geopolitical circumstance of the creation of Israel and its moves onwards and its annexation of the West Bank. Would returning the hostages end the annexation of the West Bank?
Well, I think many people would say there is no solution to this crisis. But anyway, let's move away from the history of the region, because we could talk about it all day. But in terms of the politics of this, it's a very strong speech. She's a very new Home Secretary who's only been in post less than a month, clearly on top of her brief in a way that perhaps some other cabinet ministers maybe are not.
A new Home Secretary, but certainly an old hand at the wheel.
Foreign Secretary, yeah.
Sorry, apologies. Foreign Secretary. Yeah, very, very punchy speech. Some would say potentially a job interview of a speech. We don't know how long she's going to be the Foreign Secretary for. There might be other things that she's got her eyes on, but yeah, obviously, certainly it's a welcome speech that she's made, and others that may be made today, including we may see, I think, something on digital ID come out today. Certainly will not be as well received. Rachel Reeves also is going to be announcing some pretty spectacular stuff with young people. We obviously have to wait and see what the key details are within that, but certainly on the face of it, yeah, there could be some quite decent policies coming out of Labour conference this week.
Yvette Cooper also mentions illegal migration in her speech, calling for cross-government cooperation across Europe and the rest of the world to stop smuggling gangs and tackling the causes of immigration at source. Again, it comes back to the point, doesn't it? How effective is that going to be? We saw over 100 illegal migrants over the weekend cross the channel with no signs of it slowing down, apart from perhaps if the weather turns.
Well, this is it, isn't it? I think what's happened and what we've seen with Starmer and with others in the Labour government is that they have very much danced to the tune of people like Nigel Farage and have moved the goalposts so far to the right now that actually quite extreme things, like removing complete indefinite leave to remain as an entirety, is now actually considered legitimate policy and legitimate debate, when just a few short years ago it would have been out of the question to be doing so. Same with leaving the European Court of Human Rights.
But isn't that because, Charlie, things have changed materially in a few short years? We've had 3.6 million net migration in just a handful of years, something that's completely unprecedented. It'd be odd if our politics didn't change in response to that.
Well, totally. And I think the idea that there hasn't been that sentiment there before, the Brexit Party first won the European elections not so long ago. I think, Nigel Farage won in UKIP, in previous European elections before that. So there's always been a constituency within the UK of people voting who are clear, about their immigration policies. But Cameron, you made a good point earlier on. It was a good speech by Yvette Cooper because she's the Foreign Secretary. She hasn't got any levers really. She's the nation's chief diplomat, and the words that she said, she's had a lot of time to think about them, and she's articulated them, I think, very well. But she was the shadow Home Secretary when she could have planned for government to deal with this crisis when it comes to migration. She totally failed to do that. Keir Starmer has totally failed to change the Labour Party because it doesn't know what it stands for, which is why it is now flipping and flopping, where you've got the Prime Minister calling Najib Faram racist and Shabana Mahmood about to announce something very similar to his policies.
OK, Charlie, Sammy, we've got to leave it there. Thank you for now. We'll see you a bit later. Here is your 60-second news updates with Sophia Hill.
Cameron, thank you. Very good morning. The top story is at 10:30. Labour Party Conference Day 2 has kicked off as the Foreign Secretary reaffirms that Britain stands firm with Ukraine and doubled down on the UK's decision to recognise Palestinian statehood. Elsewhere, migrants who want to settle in the UK will face tougher conditions under Labour's plans. Today, the Home Secretary will reveal that applicants must speak fluent English, have a clean record and volunteer in their community before gaining indefinite leave to remain. A youth guarantee to cut unemployment will be announced today by the Chancellor. Long-term unemployed youths will be guaranteed paid work and could face being stripped of benefits if they refuse to take it up. And the British Medical Association has given Health Secretary Wes Streeting 48 hours to act or face a dispute with GPs. That's as they oppose new rules insisting that surgeries keep online consultation tools open throughout their working hours. And rail passengers in Yorkshire will soon be able to pay for their tickets by having their phones tracked. From today, travellers will be able to check in via a phone app, and with GPS tracking, it will know when they've left the train. Those are the headlines for now. More news at the top of the hour.
Well, coming up next, we'll be crossing back to our very own Andrew Pearce at the Labour Party conference.
It's all about the women today. We've got the Foreign Secretary, Yvette Cooper, speaking. We're getting Shabana Mahmood, the new Home Secretary, speaking today. And, of course, the Chancellor of the Exchequer, Rachel Reeves, making her keynote speech today. Also, Sharon Graham, the most powerful woman trade unionist in the country, very critical of Labour. I spoke to her a little earlier in the conference, and we'll have that interview after the break.
Good morning and welcome to your latest GB News weather update from the Met Office. Parts of northwest Scotland will have a fairly breezy picture through the course of today with some rain at times, but for most of us, once any fog has cleared, it's going to be a fine day with plenty of sunshine. But do leave some extra time for your morning commute, perhaps first thing this morning in eastern parts of England, because the fog here could be particularly dense and a little bit slower to clear than elsewhere. Plenty of sunshine, though, for most of England and Wales and eastern Scotland. Some cloud developing as we go through the course of the day, but a fine picture for most nonetheless. Brightening up across parts of Northern Ireland as well after some morning patchy rain. And generally temperatures around average for the time of year, but feeling a little bit warmer than on Sunday, particularly in the south. But as we go into this evening, we might well see a little bit of late brightness developing across western parts of Scotland after a fairly wet much of the day. But the rain in the north and the east, even here, quite light and patchy, so not a particularly wet or soggy evening to come here. Some late evening brightness also perhaps across Northern Ireland, although the sky is fairly milky with that high-level cloud coming and going, and similar so across England and Wales, so a mixture of cloud and clear spells as we begin the evening. As we go through the course of tonight, it's going to stay largely dry across England and Wales, a mixture of cloud and lengthy clear spells. So once again, perhaps one or two isolated fog patches developing in the countryside and turning a little bit chilly, but not as cold as it was on Sunday night. Further north and west, though, that southerly breeze strengthening, so turning quite breezy here. And look at these lows, 11 to 13 degrees Celsius, so a very mild night to come for many parts of Scotland and Northern Ireland. It does mean, though, that Tuesday is going to be quite a cloudy and breezy picture up here. So outbreaks of rain off and on, mostly across western Scotland and parts of Northern Ireland, but perhaps fairly soggy at times across parts of the higher ground areas of western Scotland and Dumfries and Galloway. Some rain for Cumbria as well, but many parts of England and Wales largely dry with sunny spells and temperatures above average for most of us, 19 or 20 in the south and 17 in the north.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good morning. This is the latest AI travel news from GBNews.com. Expect delays on the M8 westbound with restrictions between junctions 16 and 17 due to a broken down vehicle. In North Yorkshire, one lane of the A1M northbound is closed between junctions 56 and 57. Additionally, Cumbria's A66 eastbound experiences lane closures following a recent collision. In Walsall, commuters are advised that 2 lanes of the M6 southbound are shut between junctions 11 and 10. Rail passengers face significant disruptions on East Midlands Railway and Thameslink services between Luton and London St Pancras International. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Welcome back. It's 10:38. You're watching Britain's Newsroom on GB News. And we've just been listening to Yvette Cooper's speech, the first big cabinet speech of the Labour Party conference. Very impassioned, very lively, very well delivered, actually, Cameron.
It was. It certainly was. And I think one of our panellists was saying earlier that it sounded a bit like a leader's speech. Ooh, watch your space on that one. Lots of you, of course, have been getting in touch on Yvette Cooper's speech. Gary, he says that Yvette Cooper took to the stage under the banner of Renew Britain, and for the first 20 minutes, I'm not sure if it was quite that long, but he says for the first 20 minutes spoke nothing about Britain, but talked about Gaza, Palestine and the war in Ukraine. I mean, to be fairness to the Foreign Secretary, she is the Foreign Secretary. However, I do take your point. Of course, she is representing Britain on the world stage, Gary.
And we were a little disappointed, weren't we, Cameron, because we were all set to play Nigel Farage bingo and tally every time Reform and Farage were mentioned, but she didn't mention them. But I imagine that some of the other speeches might be a little bit more laced with Reform references.
Yes, I suspect Shabana Mahmood, as the relatively new Home Secretary, may mention Reform and Nigel Farage once or twice. Of course, we've already had the Prime Minister yesterday on the news around branding their policy on indefinite leave to remain, removing it from non-EU citizens as racist. Rachel Reeves, the Chancellor, doubled down on that opinion this morning on the news round as well. We'll see if Shabana Mahmood says that. Of course, Reform UK would deny that allegation.
I think they've clearly decided it's good politics to go down that route. Well, someone who can tell us whether or not it is good politics is our GB News presenter and usual Britain's Newsroom host, Andrew Pearce, who is there at Labour conference. Good morning again, Andrew.
Morning, morning, morning. You cannot get away from Reform at this conference. You'd almost think it is their conference because everybody's talking about the impact Nigel Farage is having, and there's no doubt the Home Secretary's speech later today is influenced directly by what Farage said last week, which the Prime Minister addressed in his interview, showcase interview yesterday, where he said the policy was racist. And yet now we're getting the Home Secretary talking about indefinite leave to remain, dramatically toughening up the requirements and the policy, echoing actually exactly what the Tories were saying some weeks ago when the Labour Party was opposing it. So it is a huge issue. A lot of Labour people here are very frustrated though, because they want to get on to what they say is traditional Labour fare, cost of living, jobs, getting people back to work. They don't want to be hijacked by Reform, and they're worried that the Labour government is moving too close to Reform's agenda, which will drive a lot of their voters, they think, into the arms of the Green Party and potentially the new party being set up by Jeremy Corbyn and some of those other maverick Labour MPs.
Labour MPs saying about all of this, because Shabana Mahmood proposing changes to indefinite leave to remain, extended waiting period, new eligibility criteria, etc. But we've seen the backbenchers in the past, haven't we, over the last year, basically force the government into a U-turn on policy, winter fuel payments, PIP payments, etc. Are they going to swallow this pill?
I'm not sure that. I mean, people are very, and it's very significant, isn't it, that they put a Muslim Home Secretary in charge of this policy. The moment I saw she'd got that job, I thought he's going to toughen up the language, the rhetoric, and the policy on immigration. But what's this going to do, by the way, for the small boats? We saw at the weekend record numbers coming in again. I think they're all at sea on immigration. They're all at sea on how to cope with Nigel Farage, and it's causing great consternation. And little earlier, I spoke to Sharon Graham. Now, she's the General Secretary of the Unite trade union. That's Britain's biggest trade union. She's talking about how she thinks her members will disenfranchise from the Labour Party. What that means in real terms is they'd no longer be affiliated to the Labour Party, and that could come as early as next year. And she thinks that would cost the Labour Party millions and millions of pounds, because they are without doubt the Labour Party's biggest benefactor. And she also had some strong things to say about reform. So this is what the conversation I had with Sharon Graham a little earlier. Is the Labour government obsessing too much about Nigel Farage and reform?
Yeah, I think it's really important that they don't make the mistake of saying that all Reform voters are racist. That is not true. It's not as simple as that, and that is not where everybody is. You've got people out there on their knees. Energy prices up by 42%, food up by 38%. They cannot make ends meet. They need a government to put their arms around them. They need a government to put their arms around them, and Labour's not doing that at the moment.
So you're saying quite clearly it's not racist to be concerned about the high levels of immigration in this country?
Well, I think to call people that vote in Reform racist, to say that, I think is a mistake. What people are doing, there might be people in that grouping that may say things that they shouldn't be saying, but actually what we've got to do is to listen and say, why are people moving away from Labour? What is the reason that they're moving away from Labour? And for me, it's delivery.
See, I think that's a really fascinating intervention by Sharon Graham. She represents hundreds of thousands, well, millions of trade unionists, often good white working class trade unionists who might have been on that march in central London a few weeks ago, who've got deep concern about the impact of mass immigration, how quickly it's happened, how it's changing communities. So there's a warning shot to the Prime Minister. On the one hand, stop saying racism, and then on the other hand, you've got the Home Secretary massively toughening up the language and the policy and the rhetoric on immigration. It just seems like they're going in conflicting directions, and I can just see this is going to end in tears.
Andrew, it's really interesting to hear what Sharon Graham was saying there. But at one point she said that people want the government to put their arms around them, calling for the government to do more. And of course, that's what many Labour members will want. But the Cabinet, and Keir Starmer in particular, have promised that the government will do less and get out of people's lives. How are they going to reconcile this?
Exactly, and how are they going to reconcile that with I mean, she said what she did, it was an extended interview, we'll use more of it later. She's also talking about the budget, which she thinks could be the critical test now for her people, because the budget is going to make her members' lives far more difficult, because taxes are going to go up or they're going to cut spending. They've got a choice. And so, but she wants Labour to do more to protect people, and as you say, Starmer is trying to go the other way. There is this proposal today, of course, being announced by the Chancellor to guarantee employment for young people. We've got nearly 1 million young people out of work. That we call them neat state, but they're not in employment, training or work, and they will be put in paid jobs. If they don't take those jobs, they'll lose their benefits. But at the same token, we're also going to hear that they're going to massively expand this scheme for EU young people to come into Britain, a form of free movement by the back door. Again, if we get all these young people back to work, why do we need this massive expansion of free movement of young people from the European Union? They won't say how many are coming in and how long they're going to be here for.
Yes, another headache for Rachel Reeves, perhaps. Andrew, thank you for now. We'll cross back to you a little bit later from Labour Party conference in Liverpool.
Well, coming up next, the King is said to be saddened by Prince Harry's claim that aides are sabotaging his reconciliation with his father. But first of all, if you're in search of some holiday sun, here's the forecast for some of the top European travel destinations.
I forecast a perfect holiday in the sun.
Weather looking good then?
For sure, and no worries about our travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GBNews travel destinations forecast.
There's still plenty of fine and warm weather across most of the Mediterranean, but it's a different story across parts of Spain, and in particular parts of southeast Spain and the Balearic Islands, where we're going to see some particularly heavy and persistent rain through the day on Tuesday. Flooding is possible in places, and warnings are in place as well. Scattered showers across parts of Italy, the Balkans and Greece, but many places staying dry with some sunny spells. And through the next few days, it stays largely fine with a mixture of sunny spells and cloud, and temperatures around average.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GBNews travel destinations forecast.
you want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions, but every Friday night at 9 p.m. you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m.
only on GB News.
Welcome back. Now, the Duke of Sussex made headlines last night after he claimed that the institution is sabotaging his relationship with his father, King Charles.
We've heard that one before, and it's been reported that it comes actually after a shock revelation, of course, that King Charles feels perplexed by these sabotage allegations.
Well, former royal editor for The Sun, Duncan Larkham, joins us now. Duncan, is there any truth to these allegations? Who's leaking behind the scenes, or is it a bit of gossip that's got out of hand?
I think it could be slightly overplayed. I don't know. I mean, in my experience, the palace, the men in grey suits, as Harry and his mother calls them, they don't tend to brief against other members of the royal family. That's new territory for me personally. But yeah, I mean, look. This shows how sensitive this relationship and this situation is between King Charles and his son, where actually the palace have felt, prompted to come out and actually try and counter the claims and almost reassure Harry that they're not trying to brief against him, and trying to stop Harry's paranoia, if you like.
Something doesn't add up for me here, Duncan, because I was outside Clarence House when Harry drove in for that meeting, and then he came out and he was in a very jolly mood, saying his father was great, talking to the press about it. And then just a couple of weeks later, he appears, as you say, perhaps a little bit paranoid, some would argue, and saying that there's men in grey suits briefing against me. Now, of course, some would argue either, of course, that The Sun have got these quotes from somewhere, or they've got them from the palace saying that the king is, that Harry is very upset about all of this. What realistically do you think, if you are still the royal head's son, these sources have come from?
Well, as I say, I would be very surprised if members of the palace press team were briefing against another member of the royal family. So I make that clear. They're civil servants. They're not paid lots and lots of money. They're not sort of spin doctors that the likes of politicians might employ. But, you know, the Sun wrote on Saturday that you know, they kind of stoked up this storm that's arisen. But they said in their piece from their source that Harry handed his father a gift of a picture. Now, that was then confirmed the next day by Harry's PR team. So clearly, the Sun haven't made this stuff up. Clearly, somebody somewhere is briefing against Prince Harry. And I think that is of deep concern to the king at a time when relations with his son are so sensitive. You know, this is really important stuff. This is stuff King Charles needs to actually sort out. This rift with Harry has been damaging to the royal family, and he will be desperate for it to come to an end.
And of course, you've got the personal relationships in all of this, isn't it? At the end of the day, it is a father and his youngest son. And do you think there is kind of a idea on both sides that there can be some kind of reconciliation?
Well, that certainly seems to be the case. I mean, I think that's what prompted the albeit brief meeting between the two of them. And then reports that Harry might try and come back to the UK perhaps up to 4 times a year to be involved in some way, shape or form with the work of the royals. That was unthinkable a year ago, certainly unthinkable 3 years ago after Oprah Winfrey. So, you know, I think the olive branch from the king has been extended. And as we see in the Telegraph's piece today, clearly the king is concerned that this reconciliation might be put into jeopardy by Palace, the men in grey suits, briefing against Harry or briefing against the king.
Well, Duncan Larkham, thank you very much for your thoughts this morning. Cameron, obviously this is your area of expertise. Yes. Is there a way back for Harry?
I don't think as a working member of the royal family, but perhaps there can be reconciliation between him and his father, the king, one day. Let's see.
Well, don't go anywhere. We're going back to the Labour Party conference soon. But first of all, your weather.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Box Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. Fog clearing this morning and then a fine day for most of us. Some rain in the northwest, so not entirely dry across the United Kingdom. That rain courtesy of these weather fronts that are just going to brush into the northwest during the rest of Monday, thickening up the cloud across Scotland and Northern Ireland, bringing some higher cloud to parts of Wales and the southwest of England, so turning the sunshine a little more hazy. However, we keep the bright skies for the east of Scotland into eastern, central and southeastern England. Sunny spells, temperatures doing well, 19 Celsius, but not feeling so pleasant where we've got the cloud thickening and those outbreaks of rain pushing into parts of western and central Scotland, northwest England and Northern Ireland, along with a freshening breeze. But across England and Wales, it's a largely fine end to the day. Clear spells as the sun goes down. A few spots of rain there for Snowdonia, for example, and northwest England. Northern Ireland also 1 or 2 spots of rain as the cloud thickens, but the more persistent rain will be reserved for the west coast of Scotland and parts of northern Sutherland and Caithness. Into the evening, and those outbreaks of rain continue on and off for the north and west of Scotland. Northern Ireland sees a bit more rain coming along overnight, but for much of the rest of the UK, it's a dry night with clear spells, and as a result, along with the light winds, temperatures will fall away. Another chilly night to come for the south and southeast. A few mist and fog patches to wake up to on Tuesday morning. These will clear through the morning and then plenty of sunny spells once again for the south and southeast. But for Scotland, Northern Ireland, for northwest England and for parts of North Wales, we're going to see a cloudy day with, again, light outbreaks of rain on and off through the day. A breezy day for many, but it's going to turn much wetter and much windier in the far northwest by Wednesday.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Box Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
You could bank an incredible £30,000 in tax-free cash to spend however you like. And if that wasn't enough, you'll also get to drive away in this brand new motorhome. This brand new 2025 Benamar Primero could be yours. It comes with all the mod cons you'd expect from a vehicle worth over £74,000 and comfortably sleeps 4 people. This prize package is worth over £104,000. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB16 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 31st of October. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently. It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it? It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial. And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born. It's everything you need to kickstart your evening. Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it. That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, DC.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m. only on GB News.
Good morning, it's 11 o'clock on Monday the 29th of September. Live across the United Kingdom, this is Britain's Newsroom with Cameron Walker and Miriam Cates.
Well, contribute or leave Britain. That's the message from the Home Secretary as Labour launches an immigration crackdown overhauling the main route to British citizenship. But will it work?
Well, the Shadow Home Secretary, Chris Philp, told GB News he was not convinced.
Labour are announcing today is something which we Conservatives proposed in Parliament a few months ago, and Labour voted against it.
But James Murray, the Chief Secretary to the Treasury, defended the Home Secretary's commitment to ending the Channel crisis.
People are trying to take the mick out of our values or out of our generosity or out of the laws of our country. She takes it head on and says, no, we're going to tackle this, we're going to go at it, we're going to fight.
Well, we'll be live from the Labour Party conference in Liverpool, where our very own Andrew Pearce and GB News Deputy Political Editor Tom Harwood will be interrogating politicians.
Well, I'm talking to party members and MPs about what they want from the Chancellor of the Exchequer speaking just an hour's time, but I think what they want and what they get will be entirely different, and there's Labour's problem.
Yeah, huge discussions today at the Labour Party conference, not just the Chancellor, but the Home Secretary too, perhaps announcing some pretty controversial policies.
Well, despite the government's plans to get tough on immigration, 125 migrants crossed the Channel on a mega dinghy this weekend, marking a record number on a single boat.
And Foreign Secretary Yvette Cooper criticised Reform UK as Keir Starmer branded Nigel Farage's plans to abolish indefinite leave to remain as racist and immoral.
Like the plastic patriots in Reform, we in Labour are proud to be British.
That Reform's Zia Youssef hit back.
Our policy is simple. We expect, and Nigel Farage, if he's Prime Minister, he will expect migrants to pay their way, speak English, and not commit crime.
We also spoke to General Secretary for Unite the Union, Sharon Graham, who had a warning for Labour.
Look, I think it's really important that they don't make the mistake of saying that all Reform voters are racist. That is not true.
And we'll be meeting the man who fought back against locals who ripped down his England flag by painting his entire house as a Union Jack.
Now, when the Foreign Secretary, Yvette Cooper, started speaking, Miriam and I came up with a little game, which you can play along at home as well if you like. Reform UK Bingo. How many times does a Labour politician either mention Nigel Farage or Reform UK in their speeches at the Labour Party conference? Now, Yvette Cooper only mentioned Reform UK once during her speech, so disappointing streak so far.
Absolutely. Although I did spot something there. Standing behind Tom Harwood was a massive double-decker bus. There was also a double-decker bus at the Reform conference, so perhaps already a sign that they're copying Farage. We'll see. I'll be off at the Tory conference next week. Do you think they'll have a bus as well?
Maybe. Well, we might have a few more Union flags, Miriam, that's for sure. I think there's lots of a GBNews stand at Labour conference. Not sure how many there are in the general area in Liverpool. Of course, Reform UK had quite a lot a couple of weeks ago.
Isn't it funny? In other countries, it's a perfectly normal thing to wave your national flag. It doesn't signal that you're on the political right or the left, and yet it's become quite polarised here. Well, maybe we can bring it back.
Possibly. And of course, later on, we're going to be crossing live to somewhere in the country where we've got a Union flag painted all over their house because the local council there told him to take down his actual material flags. So we'll be speaking to him.
Yes, so we're going to be speaking to him later. Well, do let us know what you think. Post your comments to gbnews.com/your say. But first, here's the news with Sophia Hill.
Miriam, thank you. Very good morning. It's just gone 11 o'clock. These are your top stories. Labour Party conference, day 2 has kicked off as the Foreign Secretary reaffirms that Britain stands firm with Ukraine and doubled down on the UK's decision to recognise Palestinian statehood. Ms Cooper said it was the right thing to do to make the historic decision in recognising Palestine. She also accused Israel of, quote, moral obscenity and said that enough is enough. She also used her speech to praise the Prime Minister, saying that Sir Keir Starmer had restored Britain's reputation abroad and hailed a, quote, transformed relationship with the EU and an ever-growing special relationship with the US. Migrants who want to settle in the UK will face tougher conditions under Labour's new plans. In her conference speech today, Home Secretary Shabana Mahmood will say that applicants must speak fluent English, have a clean record and volunteer in their community before gaining indefinite leave to remain. Asylum seekers will also need to be working, paying national insurance and not on benefits. Labour says it's drawing a clear line between its policy and Reform UK's pledge to scrap settled status entirely. But Shadow Home Secretary Chris Philp says that this good citizen test does not go far enough.
We should be increasing the salary thresholds, for example, before people can bring family members into the country. And we should also be getting rid of the Human Rights Act for immigration matters so we can deport everybody, not some people, but everybody who arrives here illegally by small boat, by dinghy over the channel. And we should deport every single foreign criminal as well. But those measures that we Conservatives have developed in detail, Labour has been voting against throughout this year.
Elsewhere, a youth guarantee to cut unemployment will be announced by the Chancellor today. Long-term unemployed youths will be guaranteed paid work and could face being stripped of benefits if they refuse to take it up. She's expected to argue that Britain should be built on contribution, with duty, hard work and fair reward at its heart. 2 months before the autumn budget, Rachel Reeves is also expected to involve tough decisions on tax and spending in her speech. 125 migrants have crossed the Channel in a mega dinghy, the biggest ever number of illegal arrivals on a singular boat. Provisional GBNews figures show that 350 people made it across on Sunday, taking the weekend total to 1,300. A child died on Sunday after a migrant dinghy got into some trouble near Boulogne. This comes less than a day after 3 other migrants lost their lives while attempting the crossing. Meanwhile, Chief Secretary to the Treasury, James Murray, is confident that Labour are doing enough to handle illegal immigration. Now let's go back to Liverpool, where John Healey is speaking at the Labour conference.
Unionised jobs for the next 15 years, and we made the biggest increase in defence spending since the end of the Cold War. This is Labour. Delivering for defence, delivering for Britain. In conference, 3 weeks ago, I was in Kyiv. I saw homes bombed, buildings destroyed. I met Ukrainian troops and drone factory workers. And I tell you, they are defiant. They are determined, fighting back Putin's brutal invasion. And their freedom is our freedom. A secure Europe needs a strong, sovereign Ukraine. And that's why we've stepped up UK leadership on Ukraine. That's why we're providing the highest ever level of military aid to Ukraine this year. And that's why we're leading over 30 nations in the coalition of the willing, ready to provide the security guarantees for when peace comes. And 1,313 days into this war, I'm proud that Labour, proud that Britain remains united for Ukraine. And conference, our message to Moscow from Liverpool today is this. President Putin, you will not win. Stop the killing, start the talks, agree a peace. We will stand with Ukraine for as long as it takes. Conference, we are now living in a new era of threat, and that demands a new era for defence. That's why we're making this historic increase in defence spending. And with this Labour investment, we're making Britain more secure. And we're making defence an engine for growth, with a defence dividend measured in good jobs right across the United Kingdom. And defence proves that we are still at heart a nation of makers. Warships, we make them in Glasgow. Submarines, we make them in Barrow. Armoured vehicles, we make them in South Wales. Artillery barrels in Sheffield. Advanced drones in Swindon. AI systems in Plymouth. And those frigates for Norway, we start them across the Mersey here in Liverpool. Conference, with Labour's defence spending, I want to make Britain the best place in the world to invest and to grow a defence business. We will make more in Britain. We will back British industry. We'll back British innovation. We'll back British jobs. This is Labour. Delivering for defence, delivering for Britain. But you know, Conference, who won't back defence jobs? The Scottish nationalists. They refused to fund a new advanced welding centre in Glasgow. So I can announce today that the Labour government now will step in and provide the funding needed. They won't, we will. And what of the other parties? Are they any better on defence? The Tories. They left our armed forces hollowed out and underfunded. The Lib Dems, They cut the size of the British Army to its smallest since Napoleon, and reform. They praise Putin and they put down NATO. Conference, we are the party that created NATO in that great Attlee government after the war. Now we are the party growing jobs and growing the army, the party facing down Russia and strengthening NATO. Conference, Labour is again the party of Britain's defence. And as Defence Secretary, I get to work with some of the most outstanding people, day in, day out. And if ever you need reasons to feel proud about Britain, then look to those who serve our country to defend us all. Our soldiers on NATO's front line with Russia, our pilots dropping aid into Gaza, our submariners patrolling the seas for weeks on end, our sailors on the carrier, reinforcing and reassuring allies in the Indo-Pacific. And I say to them, we can't fix 14 years of Tory failure overnight, but Labour will match your dedication with our determination to support you and to improve service life. And that starts with better homes. You know, a few weeks into government, I visited a military base, and I saw the result of years of Tory neglect. Damp, mould, pests, a hole in the wall of a bedroom of one of the children. And that's why we've pledged 1.5 billion extra for military homes in this Parliament. That's why we've introduced a new consumer charter to drive housing standards higher. And today we go further, a new approach, forces first. We will offer our forces priority access, or first dibs, if you like, to new homes built on surplus MOD land, making home ownership a reality for more of our services personnel and veterans. Better homes, better pay, better lives. Conference, this is Labour, delivering for defence, delivering for Britain. This is Labour, just 1 year into government, much done, but so much more to do. This is Labour, making our country more secure at home, strong abroad, renewing our country for good. Thank you.
The Defence Secretary, John Healey, speaking there at the Labour Party conference in Liverpool. Well, let's get some reaction now from GB News' presenter Andrew Pearce, who was at the GB News stand at Labour Party conference. Andrew, good morning to you. I'm not sure if you heard much of that speech. What did you make of it? And I believe you've got a guest of you as well.
I do. So I think we should just go straight to our guest, actually. We've got Chris Curtis, who's the Labour MP for Milton Keynes North. And he's also, more interesting, I think, chairman of the Labour Growth Group. Just briefly on John Healey, very positive speech. Why did he bother mentioning Nigel Farage and reform?
I can't hear the speech. I haven't got an earpiece in, so I've been sitting here watching, trying to read his lips.
He went on about reform and NATO and Russia. Do you think that your lot are talking too much about reform? This is the Labour Party conference. You should be setting out a Labour Party agenda. But every time I hear a front bencher speak, the Foreign Secretary, the Prime Minister, they're talking about Nigel Farage.
Look, I think it's important for us to talk about the future of the country and how we fix the very big issues that this country faces, from our National Health Service to the fact that we've had an economy that hasn't really been growing for a decade and a half, and we need to fix that. But look, ultimately, when it comes to the future of the country, we've also got to talk about the risks, whether that's defence and NATO and making sure that we can stand up to foreign aggression, or the risk that a Nigel Farage government would have for the defence of this country, the future of our economy and the future of our NHS.
Now, before we talk about growth, because you are chairman of the Labour Growth Group, you mentioned, I've got to talk to you about your previous role, because you were a pollster, you worked with YouGov. The poll at the weekend showing that Sir Keir Starmer is the most unpopular Prime Minister since records began in 1977. Quite an achievement, considering he only won by a landslide 14 months ago.
Look, you know, polls move up and they move down.
No, his only moved down. I anticipated that response. His only moved down.
Polls move up and they move down. But I think there's a more fundamental point, and I used to talk about this as a pollster. This isn't sort of a new phenomenon particularly, but voters are becoming more volatile than they used to be. So when you compare back to those historic figures, back in the day, most people in this country were like, I'm Labour or I'm Tory. And so there was always that base of support. Actually, this new era that we live in, almost all voters take this kind of compare the market attitude. So you do have far more volatile numbers. So yes, numbers do go down a lot more dramatically than they used to, but they can also go up again far more dramatically than they used to. If we start to turn around the big problems facing this country, whether that's the NHS, the economy, or fixing our public services.
How big an if is it?
Sorry?
How big an if is it, if we turn it around, you said?
Well,
Have you seen any sign in the last 14 months?
Yes, there's been lots of good things that we've started to do. Change takes time, right? Like, the challenges facing this country are very large, and it is going to be hard and difficult and take time to turn them around. But we've got NHS waiting lists down, millions of new appointments right across this country. The economy does seem to be starting to turn the corner. We've got the fastest growth in the G7, and we've got more investment coming into the United Kingdom, and also the work that we're doing to support families, whether that's the extra money going into childcare, free school meals at schools, lots of really good policies.
Food inflation over 5% and growth, we're flatlining the economy. You're part of the Labour Growth Group. So growth is so poor, you've brought out some pretty extraordinary merchandise at this conference, have you not?
Look.
Let's see it.
Hang on, no, you can have a hat if you like. Do you want a hat?
I don't really want a hat.
You can have a hat. I don't know, have we checked if this is Ofcom compliant?
This is Ofcom compliant, I think. He's making me wear this. Oh my God.
So look,
it says
this is the attitude. This is the attitude that we need to have right across government if we're going to fix
What you're saying is get on with growth.
Look, this government is getting on with growth, but we need to go further and faster in bringing growth back to the British economy. There are lots of the last decade and a half, wages in this country pretty much the same as they were going into the financial crisis. That's less money going into the Treasury. That's families really struggling to afford the increasing cost of living. So we do need to fix that really, really big problem, and we're determined to work with government
National
to ensure
insurance
that we do
rises have stifled growth completely. We've got a budget coming up in November. The Chancellor's going to be speaking at midday. She's going to have very little to cheer businesses. She's going to have very little to cheer people who want to invest, because there's a £30 billion black hole.
But there's lots that we're doing that's cheering investment and bringing investment into the UK. Look, one of my diagnoses is that the reason that Britain has not been growing is because Britain has not been building. We have a planning system in the UK. It's not fun, it's not exciting, it's quite boring and wonkish, but ultimately we have a planning system in the UK that makes it too difficult to build things, whether that's the new homes that we need, whether that's the energy infrastructure that we need, or whether that's the new roads. Now, we've started the process of fixing that, whether that's the changes to the MPPF, boring document that sets out these rules, or the changes that we're trying to push through the House of Lords as quickly as we can on the planning and infrastructure bill. If you want to start yelling at some people holding back growth, yell at the members of the House of Lords that keep trying to delay our planning and infrastructure bill, because they are anti-growth unless they allow us to get this bill through. But that is why...
Maybe you should give them one of your hats.
Do you know what? Every single member of the House of Lords that tells me that they're going to try and delay their planning and infrastructure bill, I'm going to walk around and give them a hat, because we need to make these kind of changes if we're going to put the hat back on, if we're going to get the British economy growing again.
I'm not going to wear it again, but this is the Labour message. This is Chris Curtis. He is chairman of the Labour Growth Group. He's also the MP for Milton Keynes North, and he's being loyal and on message-ish so far at this conference. I'm going to move now to Tom Harwood, my colleague, who's somewhere else in the Labour Party conference.
Yes, that's right. I thought I'd take you a little bit behind the scenes, Andrew. You can see yourself there. If we spin round and just have a look at where we are in the Labour Party conference, a bit of a sort of behind the scenes look, if you will. Let's go just over here, because there's currently a large queue of people waiting to hear the Chancellor Rachel Reeves. She'll be speaking in that room there, the sort of main stage of the conference. So a lot of excitement there. Of course, the Chancellor expected to make some pretty controversial changes to benefits for young people. The big speech sort of look ahead that we've been briefed. But let's step away from our magnificent stand just for a second to go off and see some of the other things around the conference hall. There are, of course, all sorts of different companies, charities, campaign groups, all putting across their stands, some more elaborately than others. There are so many interesting things to do at a party conference. Of course, there are always the speeches and the fringe events, but also there's quite a lot of exhibition going on here in the exhibition hall. And I just wonder, there are sort of games that you can play, throwing things through hoops. There are people that you can chat to. When I say there are games that you can play, you can actually literally play video games here. It's an extraordinary way to spend your time with a company called Epic LAN. My goodness me. There are also more traditional things that you might have thought to see at a party conference. Labour unions, of course, being represented here loudly and proudly. But I wonder if some of the most interesting things that you can find or do are actually not at all in the main hall. There are going to be all sorts of fringe events and drinks receptions. Those are very often the times when you hear perhaps what the politicians don't want you to hear. Maybe when they've been slightly socially lubricated with a drink or two. That's sometimes when you hear politicians saying something that they might not want to say. Did we hear certain slips from people last night? Well, Andy Burnham was very effusive in his criticism of the atmosphere of debate in the Labour Party. Could he have gone a little bit too far in what he was saying there? Well, that remains to be seen, but so much going on at Labour Party conference, and we're here for every second of it.
Well, it looks riveting, Tom. Thank you for now. We'll be back with you a little bit later on.
But coming up next, GPs are threatening to strike if the NHS makes it too easy for patients to get an appointment. Are the unions out of control?
Well, this is Britain's Newsroom, even. Britain's favourite morning show on GB News.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. It's 11:27. This is Britain's Newsroom, live across the United Kingdom with Cameron Walker and Miriam Cates.
Well, we're joined now by our panel, former Conservative advisor Charlie Rowley and Socialist commentator Samuel Sweek here in the studio. We'll come back to the Labour conference in a little while, but I just want to start with this story in the Telegraph today about GPs who are threatening to go on strike if they are forced to accept this online booking system. What do you think of it, Charlie?
Well, they shouldn't be going on strike. That's the first thing to say, because I think, there are too many people that do need GP appointments that haven't got them, that haven't had them in the past, particularly because of the delays of COVID, that need to see them. So the BMA should not be threatening, particularly under a Labour government where they've had actually public sector pay increases, they should not be threatening with strike action. So that's the first point. However, there is a legitimate argument about the use of GP practices, who's using them. I do believe that there are too many people that actually seek out a GP appointment when they could be going to see, for example, a pharmacist, where we've given them more powers. They've got more powers to treat people and see them early. Because if people don't have a GP appointment, or they feel that they need to see a GP and the GPs go on strike, people will just end up in A&E and it will clog up our A&E departments, and therefore people that have got serious critical conditions won't be able to get their access to the health service. And this just shows and highlights, I think, the disintegration and the disunity between the health service as a whole. We talk about the NHS as if it is one big collective ball of an entity that should be supported and is brilliant, and in the large part it is. But I do think you have to say to people, some people, for example, I think we even suggested or the Conservatives suggested in the manifesto, if you charge people to see a GP, a very tiny fee, maybe not for people over the age of 65, for example, but middle-aged people, if you really need to see a GP, it'll cost you £5. I think you'll see, for example, the number of appointments that are missed that come down. The idea that you're making it even easier just to book an online appointment when you might not need to see a GP, I think it will clog up the system. So I've got a bit of sympathy, but the idea of strike action is totally wrong.
But Samuel, what I found extraordinary in this article was that Wes Streeting, the Labour Health Secretary, compared seeing your GP and getting an appointment to booking an appointment with a hairdresser. But if you want to have your haircut every day and you can afford to have your haircut every day, then you can go and get your haircut every day. But a GP service is entirely different, surely.
Yeah. I mean, here we are now, just the latest example of the weakling Wes Streeting in his Strongman Act with his nonsensical policies and buddying up to private healthcare, because ultimately this is where this is going to lead. It's going to lead to people having to pay for GP appointments or being fined if they miss GP appointments. It's not what the NHS was set up for, and frankly, if you listen to people like the BMA, rather than gobbing off to the Telegraph every time somebody in the workforce actually stood up to him, he may actually learn a thing or two. What this would do is overwhelm GPs, things would be missed, patients would be put at risk, and we would see more and more people, more and more GPs, as we have done for many years now, leaving the service because, frankly, things are too difficult for them to actually deal with. He needs to be engaging with them in a positive way, listening to their concerns, get the private healthcare out of our NHS and out of his donors, and listen to the GPs, and he will save lives by doing this.
OK, former Conservative advisor Charlie Rowley and social commentator Samuel Sweek, thanks for joining us. Sorry it was short and sweet, so we've got so much to get through in this show, I'm afraid.
Well, before we do anything else, we're going to have a 60-second news update with Sophia Hill.
Miriam, thank you. Very good morning. These are the top stories at 11:30. Labour Party Conference Day 2 has kicked off as Foreign Secretary reaffirms that Britain stands firm with Ukraine and doubled down on the UK's decision to recognise Palestinian statehood. Meanwhile, Defence Secretary John Healey personally addressed Vladimir Putin, saying, "You will not win." Migrants who want to settle in the UK will face tougher conditions under Labour's plans. Today, the Home Secretary will reveal that applicants must speak fluent English, have a clean record and volunteer in their community before gaining indefinite leave to remain. Jaguar Land Rover, the car maker, said that it will resume some manufacturing production in the coming days as it continues to deal with the fallout of a major cyber attack. They'll start a, quote, controlled and phased restart, but the company has acknowledged there is much more to do. And rail passengers in Yorkshire will soon be able to pay for tickets by having their phones tracked. From today, travellers will be able to check in via a phone app with GPS tracking when they leave the train. Those are the headlines for now. More news at the top of the hour.
Take the GB News family with you on any device. As long as you have an internet connection, tune into GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond.
Well, coming up next, we'll be crossing back to the Labour Party conference. Don't go away. You're watching Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Yes, here in Liverpool, I'll be joined in just a moment by MP Natalie Fleet. Don't go anywhere.
Hello and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. Fog clearing this morning and then a fine day for most of us. Some rain in the northwest, so not entirely dry across the United Kingdom. That rain courtesy of these weather fronts that are just going to brush into the northwest during the rest of Monday, thickening up the cloud across Scotland and Northern Ireland, bringing some higher cloud to parts of Wales and the southwest of England, so turning the sunshine a little more hazy. However, we keep the bright skies for the east of Scotland into eastern, central and southeastern England. Sunny spells, temperatures doing well, 19 Celsius. But not feeling so pleasant where we've got the cloud thickening and those outbreaks of rain pushing into parts of western and central Scotland, northwest England and Northern Ireland, along with a freshening breeze. But across England and Wales, it's a largely fine end to the day. Clear spells as the sun goes down. A few spots of rain there for Snowdonia, for example, and northwest England. Northern Ireland also 1 or 2 spots of rain as the cloud thickens, but the more persistent rain will be reserved for the west coast of Scotland and parts of northern Sutherland and Caithness. Into the evening, and those outbreaks of rain continue on and off for the north and west of Scotland. Northern Ireland sees a bit more rain coming along overnight, but for much of the rest of the UK, it's a dry night with clear spells, and as a result, along with the light winds, temperatures will fall away. Another chilly night to come for the south and southeast. A few mist and fog patches to wake up to on Tuesday morning. These will clear through the morning and then plenty of sunny spells once again for the south and southeast. But for Scotland, Northern Ireland, for northwest England and for parts of North Wales, we're going to see a cloudy day with, again, light outbreaks of rain on and off through the day. A breezy day for many, but it's going to turn much wetter and much windier in the far northwest by Wednesday.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. The time is 11:35. This is Britain's Newsroom on GB News with Cameron Walker and Miriam Cates.
Well, let's cross back to the Labour Party conference in Liverpool now and speak to GB News' political correspondent, Catherine Forster. Catherine, good morning.
Yes, good morning from Liverpool. It's absolutely buzzing here. We've had a few big speeches this morning from the Foreign Secretary, the Defence Secretary, the Chancellor will be talking at 12 o'clock. But I'm joined here on the stand by Natalie Fleet. She is MP for Bolsover since last year and a big supporter of women's sports and the Red Roses achievement the other day. Wasn't it incredible? I'm going to give you one of our fabulous GB News Union Jacks. Tell us a bit about that and how you feel about, you know, displaying our flag, because it's an issue that not everyone's very sure about at the moment.
So, in terms of the Red Roses, how cool is that? My daughter, I had her very young, and she asked me to play rugby with her. I was terrified of the ball, but I thought I've got to make the most of having my child young. So we had a season together. I was absolutely terrible.
You played?
I did. I had
Fabulous.
a season with her. I mean, that just is so cool that I got that opportunity with her, but I wasn't very good. In terms of the flag, I'm really proud of our flag and our country. We've got women that not only have won at rugby, they've also won at football. I have got dressed up as the flag when the Lionesses have been playing. We always have a St George's Cross in our house. I think that I am really proud of our country and our flag. What I am finding is that now there is a St George's Cross outside my house and outside my daughter's house, and they're on every lamppost. And I'm hearing that people are putting those up because they're proud of it, but because they feel angry about immigration. And that's why I was pleased to hear what the Home Secretary said today. It's a proper Labour value that you work and you contribute. We are an open and welcoming country if we choose who we have here, and then you come, you speak English really well, you volunteer in your community, you have a good job, you're not on benefits. This is something that people in Bolsover would absolutely agree with, and I think that they'll welcome it today.
So you think that that will cut through with the public, because let's face it, at the moment you've had a pretty rocky first year and a bit. There's tough talk coming today, as you say, from Shabana Mahmood, and also from the Chancellor about this youth guarantee. The benefits bill is too big, isn't it? Are you going to have another go at getting that down?
So I am really excited about the youth guarantee. I see this as like a moral thing that we have to tackle. We've got young people that they've been out of work for far too long. They've been written off by the last government. They haven't had their education invested in, apprenticeships invested in. We're now saying that if you have been out of work for 18 months, and during that period we will provide you support to go back into education or to get an apprenticeship, but if it gets to the end of 18 months and the support that we've given you hasn't helped, we're going to guarantee you a job. The reason I love it so much is because as a 15-year-old that was pregnant in a really deprived community, the state saw me, the last Labour government, they wrapped their arms around me. They said, we are going to make sure that you've got a Sure Start nursery for your child. We're going to make sure that you can work in a minimum wage job. You've now got to take these opportunities, work hard, make sure that you can provide for your family. These are Labour values. We've then had a government that have just written young people off, and that's why we see so many of them struggling right now. We are once again saying that if you are the youth of our country, you are the future talent. We are going to use the money that we have got, because we all know we haven't got endless pockets. We're going to use those. We're going to spend that money in a real Labour way, and we're going to invest in our young people. I am absolutely thrilled about that.
It's a very tough time for young people, isn't it? Graduate employment and entry-level jobs are a really difficult time. So, Natalie Fleet, thank you very much for talking to us today on GB News. And now we're going to see what Andrew Pearce is up to. He is somewhere around here.
I most certainly am. I'm in the conference hall. We're getting ready now, of course, for the Chancellor's speech, which is coming up. And I'm just wandering around the conference hall. But this is Unite's stand. This is the biggest trade union in the country. I spoke earlier to Sharon Graham, the General Secretary, who had quite a lot of criticism for the Chancellor of the Exchequer. Wandering around the corner now, we're going to find another trade union. We're looking for the CWU, which is another of the biggest trade unions. Let's see if we can find them. Here's Unite. Spoke to your General Secretary, she was in very good form. The General Secretary, very good form. Here we go. If we go round the corner, we are going to find the CWU, which is the union for the Royal Mail, the staff. Here we go. The excitement is building, of course, because they all want to hear the Chancellor's speech. Thrilling, isn't it? The very thought of it. The very thought of it. So here we are. We're coming up now to the CWU. I know them quite well. Now here they are. Let's knock on the door. This is the CWU. This is the post at one of the biggest trade unions. Now here they are. This is a very important trade union. How's the conference going so far?
Well, we've got the best spot, haven't we? It's very, very busy. It's a very different type of demographic of person, I would say to you, Andrew, but it's gone well for us.
Yeah, and how do you think it's going for the Labour leadership?
I would say mixed. I think there's definitely a groundswell of people saying, look, let's come together, let's stick together, let's remember who the real enemy is in terms of reform, in terms of the people moving to the right of the party and right of the country. But there's also a little bit of question about Labour's record so far in government.
And also about Keir Starmer. This poll yesterday showing he's the most unpopular Prime Minister since records began. Are you a Keir fan?
Well, I would say if I was in his camp, I'd probably say to him, the only way is up, and now he's got to table some policies that materially impact working people. I think one of the issues Keir has is he isn't Mr. Charismatic. He isn't somebody...
Understatement of the year.
Probably, yeah, there you go. So I was being kind, wasn't I? Come on, see?
You were.
It's right to be kind, isn't it? Yeah. So what he has to do, against that backdrop, is put forward policies that will materially improve working class people's lives. We haven't seen that, we need to see it.
Now, what have you got here? This hat. What's that about?
An Oasis theme.
Are you an Oasis?
Yeah, I'm a big Oasis fan. I went to see them, yeah.
Oh, did you?
I'll tell you what I have got for you, Andrew, actually. I've got an Oasis themed T-shirt. Look at that.
That would probably fit me because it's small.
Yeah. And there's been some rumours around the conference, some dodgy rumours all week. The biggest one I've heard do is that you telling me you're a size small T-shirt. I don't believe that for a second.
Well, I'm not large, am I?
No, I've got you down as a medium. Come on.
Well, all right, maybe I should take a medium one.
Yeah.
Is that really
yes, for you.
This is the first gift I've ever had from a trade union in my life, and here we are. Let's see. Shall I wear it? What do you think? Right. Oh my God, what I do for this company, what I do for... Oh my God, it's humiliating. This is totally humiliating. I've already had to wear another hat. People are laughing at me as they're walking by, and they're taking my picture as well. Of course they are. That's going to be all over social media.
But they're going to protect you, because now they know you're in a union, so they're going to stand away. Look.
Can I just say, this will upset this man. I've never been in a union in my life, until now. So this is a first. Andrew Pearce makes shock horror confession. I'm finally in a union. Who'd have thought it? Just before I let you go, here all week?
We're here all week. We're here till Wednesday, and we're going to be here to the bitter end. Big motions for the CW today on wealth tax, on the AI revolution, and on sectoral collective bargains. So we're going to have our say in the conference all day.
All right. Well, great to see you. And just remind us what your name is.
My name's Chris Webb, and I'm the head of comms at the CW.
Very good. And I've got my union T-shirt, and I bet you asked for it back. Back to you.
Andrew, you are rocking that look. I'm loving it.
What a fantastic guest as well. I think he has got a future in politics, to be honest. It was a brilliant answer to the question about Keir Starmer's popularity.
Yeah, constructive criticism, perhaps.
Absolutely. Very balanced and fair. Well, don't go anywhere, because after the break, we're going to be meeting the man who fought back against locals who ripped down his England flag by painting his entire house as a Union Jack.
Yeah, but first, your forecast for some of the top European destinations.
Looking happy.
Well, the forecast looks good.
So you've sorted the travel insurance then?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GBNews Travel Destinations Forecast.
There's still plenty of fine and warm weather across most of the Mediterranean, but it's a different story across parts of Spain, and in particular parts of southeast Spain and the Balearic Islands, where we're going to see some particularly heavy and persistent rain through the day on Tuesday. Flooding is possible in places, and warnings are in place as well. Scattered showers across parts of Italy, the Balkans and Greece, but many places staying dry with some sunny spells. And through the next few days, it stays largely fine with a mixture of sunny spells and cloud, and temperatures around average.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GBNews Travel Destinations Forecast.
Welcome back to Britain's Newsroom with Andrew and Beth.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christie's here.
I'm Michelle Duke, Britain's News Channel.
Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GB News family with you on any device. and as long as you have an internet connection. Tune in to GB News, anywhere on the planet or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m, only on GB News.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel. At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it?
No,
Because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes and Kerr weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Welcome back to Britain's Newsroom. Joining us from Labour Party conference is GB News' political editor, Christopher Hope. Good morning to you, Christopher. What's the atmosphere like? I hear you've got lots of union flags with you.
I have a lot of flags here, yes, Cameron, that's right. Well, it's about the start of the Rachel Reeves' big speech here as a chancellor. I'll be trying to give them out to people as they go in. Let's walk down the queue a bit. Let's see here. They're running away from me. Sorry about this. Would I care for a flag? With the flag? No? Yeah, well, Keir Starmer's urging you to back. Are you happy waving a flag in a speech by Rachel Reeves?
I would be, yes.
There's no worries here, but embrace the flag. OK, I've got it there. We'll keep walking down the queue here, see others going in. David, thank you there. Hello, sir. Would they take a flag here for Rachel Reeves' speech?
Sorry?
Take a flag for Rachel Reeves' speech and wave it to mark...
I'm not going to the speech.
Oh, you're not? Well, take it anyway. Thank you very much. And we'll go this way. There we are. Any more? Hello, sir. Would they take a flag from GB News? A flag from GB News?
You take my flag.
Yes, I'll have your flag. You have my flag. There we are, sir. Thank you. No problem with waving a flag here at the party conference?
No, none at all.
Well, why the left have a problem with flags?
I have no idea. I have no problems with flags whatsoever.
Exactly. Quite right. Paul Richards, you're a GB News colleague. Would you take a flag here? Would you wave it during Rachel Reeves' speech?
I would love to. I'm a very proud and patriotic guy, and I wave the flag on every possible occasion. So there we
you
are.
see it on a bridge, there's no problem with flying from a bridge or a lamppost?
As long as it's safe and it's not going to fall on a car and cause an accident, but if people want to show their patriotism, that's absolutely fine.
Well, wave it during...
We have this on our party cars chopper, don't forget. We're the only party that does. I can show you mine if you want, but there it is. So we're very proud.
Thank you, Paul Rich. Thank you, sir. Just going backwards here. Hello, madam. Would you wave a flag during Rachel Reeves' speech?
No, thank you. I'm just about to.
Go on. OK, no problem at all. I'm walking around here. It looks like many have gone in. Hello, sir. Would you have a GB News flag here to wave on stage? Here you are.
Yes, thank you.
Wave it during Rachel Reeves' speech.
No problem. I'm looking forward to Rachel Reeves' speech. OK.
I think she's got an incredibly difficult job to do. Okay. How she's managing, and I don't know, but I think she will do it.
Pat McFadden, will we take a flag from GB News? Will you wave on stage during Rachel Reeves' speech? You're the Welfare Secretary.
Happy to wave the flag. Hi, Pat.
There we go. You'll be waving it for us. Okay. I think we've run out of flags there, but we've got one to go to the Welfare Secretary, Pat McFadden, and he's carrying it. Let's hope he waves on stage. Rachel Reeves coming to you from midday.
Well done, Chris. Brilliant. Waving your flag there for GB News. And speaking of flags, Simon Brocklehurst from Sutton in Ashfield fought back against locals who ripped down his England flag by painting his entire house as a Union flag.
Well, GB News' national reporter Will Godley has joined us now live with Simon Brocklehurst at his house.
Yeah, I'm here, and I've got to say, the house here is kind of putting your GB News flags at the Labour conference to shame. It is massive. Red, white and blue here, the Union flag painted all over Simon's house. Simon, come join me now. It took you about 3 days to get all the paint on this house. What made you want to fly the flag here?
My granddad fought in the war. Basically, it's a sign of respect and pride in the country. So that's why I fly it.
But you've got a flag flying here, but why paint your whole house?
Well, I did actually just have a Union flag flying outside the house, and then somebody ripped it down and ran away with it, shouting racist. So I thought, paint the house, you can't rip that one then.
And, I mean, we've been here all morning. Locals have really been loving it. People have been honking their horns. People have been waving, giving us the thumbs up. The reaction from your neighbours has been quite positive, but online less so. What have people been saying to you online?
Well, vile things, really. A couple of them, I'll come and smash your windows, and you're not patriotic, stuff like that. It's like, they're just keyboard warriors, let them get on with it.
And a lot of people accusing you online of being racist, of being far right. Do you feel that's fair to say?
Not at all. I'm not racist at all. I class things as far right, far left. I think I'm in the middle where I should be, but if you fly a flag nowadays, you're automatically classed as far right.
Well, I've got to say, there are lots of flags flying on the streets here. On every single lamppost, there's a St George's cross. But we're hearing just half an hour away today in Derby, the council are beginning to take down flags there. Simon, are you worried that the council could come and step in here with your house?
Well, if they came and told me to repaint the house, I mean, if it's law, I suppose I'd have to do it, but I'd drag my feet all the way and keep it on as long as possible.
Well, thanks, Simon. I mean, his message to the Prime Minister, who's calling for patriotic renewal, might be what's on his T-shirt. Keep calm and paint your house.
Absolutely. Will, thank you very much for bringing us that. And Simon, what a brilliant paint job he's done in the house.
He's done quite a good job. I mean, the lines are pretty straight, the colours are in the right place. It's not easy to do when you're up close for something to look... I'm not sure I'd like to live next to it, though.
Well, maybe, but I suppose what he did was get a projector up, draw the lines, and then do a bit of a colouring in situation. So that's how Simon did it. But yeah, I suppose lots of people, of course, it's created an opinion, hasn't it, online?
Absolutely.
Let us know what you think. gbnews.com/your say.
It's easy for him to provide directions to visitors now. Well, we'll be back tomorrow. We'll be at the Labour conference all day. Don't go anywhere. Good Afternoon Britain next.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. Fog clearing this morning and then a fine day for most of us. Some rain in the northwest, so not entirely dry across the United Kingdom. That rain courtesy of these weather fronts that are just going to brush into the northwest during the rest of Monday, thickening up the cloud across Scotland and Northern Ireland, bringing some higher cloud to parts of Wales and the southwest of England, so turning the sunshine a little more hazy. However, we keep the bright skies for the east of Scotland into eastern, central and southeastern England. Sunny spells, temperatures doing well, 19 Celsius, but not feeling so pleasant where we've got the cloud thickening and those outbreaks of rain pushing into parts of western and central Scotland, northwest England and Northern Ireland, along with a freshening breeze. But across England and Wales, it's a largely fine end to the day. Clear spells as the sun goes down. A few spots of rain there for Snowdonia, for example, and northwest England. Northern Ireland also 1 or 2 spots of rain as the cloud thickens, but the more persistent rain will be reserved for the west coast of Scotland and parts of northern Sutherland and Caithness. Into the evening, and those outbreaks of rain continue on and off for the north and west of Scotland. Northern Ireland sees a bit more rain coming along overnight, but for much of the rest of the UK, it's a dry night with clear spells, and as a result, along with the light winds, temperatures will fall away. Another chilly night to come for the south and southeast. A few mist and fog patches to wake up to on Tuesday morning. These will clear through the morning, and then plenty of sunny spells once again for the south and southeast. But for Scotland, Northern Ireland, for northwest England and for parts of North Wales, we're going to see a cloudy day with, again, light outbreaks of rain on and off through the day. A breezy day for many, but it's going to turn much wetter and much windier in the far northwest by Wednesday.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
It's our biggest Great British giveaway to date. You could be driving away with this brand new Benamar Primera motorhome. This 4-berth home from home comes complete with integrated kitchen and bathroom areas and has all of the tech you'd expect from the latest 2025 model. We'll also give you an incredible £30,000 in tax-free cash to make sure that any adventures you take in your new motorhome are taken in style. For a chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB16 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 31st of October. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices